Hey, how's it going, folks? So, all I'm doing today, just to get right into it, quite seriously, all I'm doing is casting 11 replays from the two tournaments I've played in most recently. One last night and one a few days ago. And we'll just kind of go over some Khorne gameplay. I mean, you've got a lot of different fun builds mixed into these replays as well. It's not all super sweaty stuff like what I'm bringing here. This is it's a pretty highly meta build, I would say. You know, go lots of Marauder Horsemen, some Furies early just to give the Dark Elves a little bit of something to think about and try and dive some of their more vulnerable tools that they might be bringing. You know, need something to counter-shoot Scourge Runner Chariots. And they can do good damage to Horsemen, but Horsemen can also throw those axes back and do quite a bit of damage to them. Valkia is very strong. The big risk with Valkia is just her getting trapped on the ground because she has no mass. But generally speaking, as Khorne, you have plenty of tools to peel for her. As long as you have something nearby that can kind of like rush in and push units off of her, she's pretty easy to help. You've got Demon Shield if the situation starts getting risky. You've got Sleipnir, which is just a disgusting item. The only bad thing about Sleipnir is you only get 2 uses, but I have gotten some fat value out of this many times. I think the most I've ever gotten out of one Sleipnir is 1,000 value. You're not going to get that all the time, but if you can get like 300 or 400 value off of Sleipnir with each use, and break open like a position so that your troops can kind of push into your opponent's formation, that's really where Valkia shines, and she's great at supporting mobility fights. I actually really prefer to use her quite sparingly, just because her health pool isn't, like, amazing. You've got plenty of other good tools as Khorne to, like, do heavy lifting and damage to big, scary targets. She's really there just for chip damage and a little bit of utility in the ways that I've already outlined. So, Scourge Runner Chariots poking at me. They've gotten quite a bit of value on my horsemen. You can see me just kind of pulling them back a bit, giving some space to these things while they shoot. Bloodletter's about to get charged down. I'm trying to retreat them. If you run away from chariots, you can actually save a little bit of damage oftentimes. I'm also trying to avoid the Shade dual weapons who are opening up. A really cool unit. Wasn't expecting them. Saw the size of my opponent's army, and I figured there might be, like, something sneaky mixed in here. I just wasn't really prepared for these guys, but we do have good tools for them. Fury's generally pretty decent against them. I make a bit of a mistake here, dive a little too aggressively with these things. They land in the Witch Elves, and the Scourge Runners countercharge them, and they're getting shredded pretty good. Drop a Sleipnir over here on this Shade dual weapon, and I'm going to get the Furies into a much better position over here, where they're landing on top of the Dark Riders as well as the Shades. These Shades already being damaged, and running smack into the Furies just get absolutely folded up. No hope for those guys. We got some Marauders pushing past, and the Marauder Horsemen coming around the flank here. Lots of mobility for Khorne is also very useful just for this. These dual axe horsemen do have excellent weapon strength and charge bonus. They can really thump against enemy infantry and light cavalry, like these Dark Riders who just get absolutely deleted here. Running into some Witch Elves now, which is a bit of a scary situation. They are very powerful once they get that Witch Brew active. You can see their melee attack up to 72 right now. Kind of tearing into some of my horsemen. You also get the Cold One Dread Knights coming out. Very powerful generalist armor-piercing unit that I cannot scrap with what I have here. But we're going to retreat. We've got much better speed than these guys. We only have 66. Got 92 and a little bit less since these guys are poisoned right now, but they'll still be able to escape. Valkia is up in the sky, so no worries about her getting trapped here, and we're doing a good job on the front line. Bloodletters are surprisingly good against Dark Elves, actually. They rip apart Witch Elves in point of fact. I don't really understand how, to be quite honest. I guess the Phys Res and the fact that they circumvent the physical resistance of the Witch Elves and the HP disparity is really all it is. There's a full, like, 1,500 HP difference between Bloodletters and Witch Elves. Plus, I've got some Blood Beasts over here, but even without that, the Bloodletters would still be here. They'd be pretty much dead, but at the least, they're only 100 gold more than a Witch Elf is. Or maybe even only 50 gold more. So it really just evens out nicely, because you still have your unit on the field. Even if it's very depleted, they can still offer some cap weight at the end of the fight. Whereas the Dark Elves suddenly have lost, you know, their infantry, and they have to reconstitute some kind of force to try and hold you off. Blood Beasts charging down Dread Spears. You might think this is a bad fight for the Blood Beasts, and in some respects, sure. But I did get a charge off on the Dread Spears while they were unbraced, and Blood Beasts just have great animations. They attack so fast. They just pummel everything in front of them. So you can catch out cheap chaff units like Dread Spears and just pummel them before they can really do anything to counteract you. Horsemen are pretty beat up, but we're getting a decent little lead in the value trading. You can see I've got about an 1,100 gold value lead. Got some Chaos Warriors here just scrapping down some Dread Spears, these Dread Spears running away. We just kind of all in over here. Valkia pops Demon Shield just so the Shade Dual Weapons can't, you know, chip away with their bonus versus infantry there. Probably should have saved it for Malekith here, who is going to get in on Valkia, but she's a pretty decent duelist in her own right. She's not too fussed about fighting a character like him, even if he is pretty tough. Blood Beasts here just pummeling down these Shades with the Horn of Khorne active there for quite a while. Wearing off in just a few seconds, but they've gotten some great value. Scourge Runners poking at them, but now got some Flesh Hounds. I do like a Flesh Hound or two against the Dark Elves, just for doing stuff like this. Scourge Runners can be really menacing, not just at range, but also with their chariot. They're a chariot, right? They can run over your Marauders and Chaos Warriors and Bloodletters. You don't want to let that happen. Khorngors are really indispensable in this matchup. You can see I've got one over here. But the Khorngors are here to counter Dread Knights. You know, Cold One Dread Knights are more of the target that the Khorngors can scrap against. Scourge Runners can kind of push through Khorngors at times. And Flesh Hounds have enough mass that they can actually stop the chariots, and they can run them down with their good speed. Because Scourge Runners are slightly slower than the Fleshies. Even though it's very hard to actually close the ground, Flesh Hounds are a much better target for Scourge Runners to be shooting at than something like your Blood Beasts. You want to try and keep your Blood Beasts alive and online as long as possible. Use your Blood Beasts around your Khorngors as well. Khorngors and Blood Beasts together kill everything. I mean, absolutely everything. Blood Beasts kill, like, counter infantry units to Khorngors, like Witch Elves. What are some other things? Witch Elves, Black Ark Corsairs, they can beat Harganeth Executioners with Khorngor on top of them, I think. It's a pretty close fight regardless, and it is going to leave the Dark Elves at a disadvantage because of how expensive Executioners are. So, there's, you know, some give and take, but you're, generally speaking, going to have a pretty good time if Khorngors and Blood Beasts get to run around together. Blood Beasts here running away, they're just trying to get back to the safety of the Flesh Hounds. And now I pop Relentless Rage on the Blood Beasts, because the Cold One Knights get completely stuck in here. And I pull the Khorngors and the other Blood Beast unit and the Flesh Hounds around the back onto the Cold One Knights and just completely crush these guys. Absolute brutality, man. Look for opportunities like this against the Dark Elves when you can. It can be a little hard to get these chances just because the Dark Elves are so quick, but anytime you can collapse onto the rear of Cold One Knights with Flesh Hounds, it's a pretty good time for you. Flesh Hounds have a lot of weapon strength, really good charge bonus of 46. AP values aren't terrible on them, so they're pretty good against the Cold One Knights, actually. They just can't be the ones who eat the charge, right? If they do eat a charge, then they need to have something like a Blood Beast near them, which is what I did here. I got a nice little wombo combo going. Blood Beast and the Flesh Hounds just chasing back all the mobility. Valkia occupying a Witch Elf here. She dropped a Sleipnir on these guys. She hasn't gotten a ton of value, about 1,000, which really isn't too terrible. Got some Chaos Warriors. They fought off the Dread Spear, and now they're just sitting on the point. capping the number 2, and I've just got a full triple now. My opponent is very, very heavily pushed back currently. He hasn't been able to stick and move anywhere. None of his frontliners were really able to hold on. The Coldland Dread Knights have been the only unit to really hang in there for an extended period of time. You can see they've gotten good value, too. I'm pretty sure they've paid for themselves here, in fact. He's also got a problem going on back here with Malekith. Malekith is not bad against Khorne, but Malekith on a dragon really is the way to go. This cold one is pretty low mass, only 1,500, so Khorngors and a few remaining Blood Beasts just surround him, and they're beating the living hell out of poor Malekith here. It sucks to get your Lord trapped. It happens with Valkia all the time, but at least she can fly. She flies now, you know. Malekith does not, so he's going to be routing here because he just can't escape and there's no peel for him. And Valkia, she gets trapped on the ground over here by Coldwind Knights, but guess what? Blood Beasts rallying over to help her out. And these Blood Beasts have been just filthy all game. 1,800 value on the Blood Beast here. Down to 5 models, and they're still going. And in point of fact, actually smack the Scourge Runners. Send them packing, and now they're going to turn around, and we're going to collapse onto the back of this fight. They're going to get the last little bit of value that I can juice out of these guys. 1,900. Khorngor's going to run away from the Witch Elves. I'm just going to leave the Blood Beasts here to kind of attract a little bit of aggro and die. We're going to consolidate back to the point, because, you know, I'm looking a little gassed, you might think, on the battlefield, but I got Bloodletters coming up. 2 of them. I got 2 Khorngors here. I got the Chaos Warrior just holding firm out on the edge of the field. And here's an example of peeling away with Valkia. I've got Mass here. I've got a few infantry holding in, these Chaos Warriors. They're holding up most of the Witch Elves so Valkia doesn't get stuck on them. She gets a little distracted, but I give her another move order. And she's going to just jump up into the air, and now we're going to use our Bloodletters to just clear the remaining infantry my opponent has. And the Coldwind Knights, they're going to get stuffed out by the Khorngors for the most part. He can maneuver around a little bit if he wants to, and it's not going to go terribly, but it's really not a great position to be in right now. Just a little hard for the Dark Elves to re-establish themselves on the battlefield. Dark Elves are really good at playing with a lead. They're not so good at these late game trying to figure out what to do when they're in a deficit. Not a lot of factions are, to be honest, but Dark Elves are definitely one of the ones that struggle the most just because their units have such little HP. They don't get much of an opportunity to make any kind of mistakes or desperation plays. Khorne can come back from value deficits of about 2,000 at times, just depending on the situation, but it's really tough for them as well. I think the only ones that you can really rely on to be able to effectively come back from just about any situation would be like Slaanesh, Norska, and maybe Beastmen. All of those just have like the right confluence of mobility and holding power. And hard-hitting units that can just absolutely lay out your opponent. Get a nice engagement on the Witch Elves. They did pretty decently here, and they're going to hold firm for a little while. They've still got that Murderous Mastery active. Whenever the Dark Elf army bar pops off, anytime you summon a unit in, this immediately activates, so they can scrap pretty effectively for a little while once they come out onto the field. You can see they get a massive buff from Murderous Mastery. 15 leadership for the Witch Elves. They get all of this melee attack as well. It's pretty nice. Plus, I believe they get vigor reductions. So smaller maps can work really nicely for the Dark Elves. But again, because they're so far down, all those like buffs as they're getting into combat just don't really matter, because I've got like equal parts good infantry and anti-large counters available on the field that are just going to be a little bit too resilient for the Dark Elves to quickly crush through, so I can replace my losses so much better than Pont can. You can see I've got Fleshhounds, Furies, another Khorngor, Fleshhound over here, another Bloodletter that's full health. And this Khorne and this Bloodletter aren't doing bad. Valkia just, you know, chilling. Girl bossing it. She's just, ice cold, dude. She has no fear. One of my favorite lords by far. She just kicks ass. So, that's the first game that we've got. It was a nice little win, for sure. Could have played a little cleaner. Furies, though, got some really good value, and the Blood Beast carried hard. Karanak I never brought in. Karanak's a bit of a gamble unit. There's not always going to be good targets for him. Karanak is best into matchups where your opponent is going for not characters like Malekith, but going for something like a Supreme Sorceress, because Khorne can actually net the Supreme Sorceresses and rip them apart pretty quickly with his really high melee attack and weapon strength. He's not very good against armored characters like Malekith, so I just left him on the chopping block, and I brought in the Khorne and the Blood Beast, figuring they could do enough of the heavy lifting to get me the dub here, and they very much did. I think the Dark Rider repeater crossbows probably should have come in first for Pont, if I'm going to be honest. I think he needed to play the skirmish game a little bit longer, because he had a huge edge there. But, you know, that's a mistake that just about anybody can make. Misidentifying the right call-ins is one of the biggest things that can hold you back in domination mode, so the sharper you get with recognizing when and where you need to take fights and what kind of counter units you need to bring out first, the quicker you get up to speed on that, the better you'll do overall. So, something to keep in mind for the future. I've definitely lost plenty of games by not playing the skirmish game long enough, because Khorne does have a pretty decent one, actually. Alright. Scrapping against Ulrich here, a clanmate. Really, really good player. I've only beaten him one of the 3 or 4 times we've played. He's just got really clean micro, and, you know, Khorne against Norska is not like the worst matchup for Khorne, but it's certainly not a very good one, and I'll pinpoint why here in just a moment. Really, especially with the new DLC, it's come down to the fact that the Great Shamans are so cheap. These guys are dirt-ass cheap. They cost nothing, basically. And they can bring Soul Blight, Doom and Darkness, an aspect of the Dread Knight. Death Magic debuffs and Leadership Bombing is really strong against Khorne. For obvious reasons. Khorne is very reliant on their Frenzy, one of the calling cards of the faction, so really don't want to be getting smacked by that on a regular basis. I've got 3 Chaos Warriors here, a couple Marauders, 2 Throwing Axes, and some Spawn with Valkia on the sky. I really like the Spawn against Norska for the most part. They're very vulnerable to the skirmish, obviously. Marauder Horsemen very good against them. You got Chaos Warriors and Marauders who can screen those guys pretty effectively. And they hit really hard against stuff like Skinwolves, Famir. They can... I've even seen them rip apart a Mammoth. Oh my goodness. I had a game where the Great Shaman on a War Shrine Mammoth got stuck in against a spawn, and they farmed 2,000 value off of them. It's really crazy, but they really need to avoid the poke, and Ulrich, as usual, is going for a lot of poke. He's brought, like, maxed out horsemen, essentially. I don't think he could have brought any more than he already has here, which is smart. He's got some Marauders, and then some Bearmen, great weapons behind. Nothing too fancy. Followers of the Great Eagle are a cool unit. I actually really like this tool here. They've got armor-piercing attacks. They can be Warp Flame, which isn't super important for the Norskins in particular, but it does help their own damage output with the magic and flaming attacks. Also lowers armor, which is useful, because Khorne does have a lot more armor than other Chaos factions. Just kind of screening them out here. I've got my Horsemen and Spawn, and some Chaos Knights on the field now. Chaos Knight's really good against Norska as well, because of the fire damage. The more fire damage you can bring against Norska, the better, usually. They do rely on Skinwolves still against Khorne a lot of the time. You can see one of them hovering in the backfield there, an armored Skinwolf. Chilling, waiting in the wings. I'm going to use my horseman here just to kind of poke, as well as Ulrich is going to be using his Marauder horseman to poke. My Chaos Warriors taking the fight on the objective. They're going to start grinding down some of these Marauders. Followers of the Great Eagle trying to run down these Chaos Warriors and get countercharged by the Spawn, who do a decent amount of damage to them. Charging in with my Chaos Knights, you get a little bit of a charge in against the Bearmen, but they're just going to pull out immediately. No point in taking that fight right now. I really probably shouldn't be extending this Chaos Warrior as far forward as it is. I think actually tucking it in on the flank here would have been a better idea. That way I can just post up around the points. Playing the objectives against Norska is the best way to beat them. Because their Marauder Horsemen run out of ammo eventually, and you can grind down Bearmen and Marauders and Berserkers and whatnot fairly effectively. Beautiful Sloupnir here. Got about 300 value out of it. A little bit shy, but still really solid. Just excellent damage against the Marauders and the Bearmen. Great charge from the Chaos Knights, just crushing that Marauder unit and doing some damage to the Bearmen. Now I'm going to pull back, trying to keep those guys online so they can keep cycle charging well into the late game is the plan. We did crush a lot of the infantry on the objective. Berserkers and some Marauders chilling here. I've got my dual axe Marauders in as well. They're pushing a little far forward right now. Followers the Great Eagle trying to find a spot to fight. Probably need to send the Spawn over a little bit to actually hammer those Berserkers. And we've got a bit of a fight going on against the Marauder Bearmen here, getting hammered by the Blood Beast. This is where I was actually feeling myself a little bit in this game, because I crushed most of his front line here. But you gotta be careful. This is what I'm talking about. I mean, the value is still very even. He's getting a lot of work done with the Marauder Horsemen. You can see they've gotten a ton of value up to this point. Very effective skirmishing from Ulrich has gotten him quite a bit of an even fight here. He's even gotten a little bit of a lead now. More Skinwolves coming out. There's just 3 of them out on the field, just running all over the place currently. I really need to try and identify some kind of opportunity here to try and keep these skirmishers at bay, because they're just ripping apart my spawn. You know, I can't keep them too far back of the front line, because then it gives opportunities for cycle charging with Skinwolves and the followers of the Great Eagle, who are pretty good at doing the cycle charge shenanigans and routine, actually. So, followers of the Great Eagle are going to try and run over the Marauders. I'm going to countercharge again, getting some more poke on these guys. Actually catching them out pretty decently here. You can see quite a bit of damage going in against them. And a really nice debuff coming in here. Soul Blight going to be dropped by Ulrich. Skinwolves getting in here. Aspect of the Dread Knight also being utilized. Really need to pull my Chaos Knights out of here, actually. Keeping them in this fight, not necessarily the best thing in the world. But I really just want the win here. I'm really all-inning. Currently, I've got my throwing axes rotating around to poke at the Skinwolves here. You can see them holding in this fight pretty nicely. A little bit of a flank coming in on my forces here, and suddenly this fight is starting to devolve in a way that I'm not very comfortable with or enjoying. You can see a terror out goes down on the Chaos Knights, and the Marauders break as well. Terror caused by the Feral Manticore and that Doom and Darkness that's affecting these guys, really wreaking havoc on them. Blood Shrine actually comes in. Blood Shrines are pretty good against Skinwolves, actually. You don't want to leave the Blood Shrines to get isolated and surrounded. But fighting here with Valkia, it's actually in a pretty decent situation to counterpunch some of these guys. Now, the Javelin weapons are the real threat to this thing, but we do break the Skinwolves quickly. Really need these guys to get out of here. Probably just pull back completely. And I've got the Chaos Warrior sitting on the point. This is why I shouldn't have pursued over here. Like, I've got this strong infantry position here, and my home objective is a very safe place to sit because it's so close to the spawns, relatively, for this very big map. You know, this map is way bigger than people give it credit for. It's actually a long run, even for the Vanguard deploy forces. And I'm just opening my entire flank up here by fighting in this little brick. If I had just formed my lines up evenly the way they were earlier and stuck to that, with a bit of a staggered line all the way down and just keeping the tree line as clear as possible, I think I would have had a much better game here. You can see so many of my units just getting surrounded by hordes of cavalry, and their leadership keeps breaking because of the Doom and Darkness, and it lasts so long. It's a full 36 seconds, which is ages in this game, and it's just ruined me, honestly. I mean, just way too many of my units are breaking early, and that's where they're taking most of their damage, right? I mean, very traditionally, back in the olden times, this is where the majority of damage was done to armies, was on their retreat, and my units have been running away for most of this game, unfortunately, since we took that big engagement. The spawn are hanging in, but they're not getting great value without any support. They do really well when they're stacked on top of infantry, but there's no infantry on top of them now, and they're just getting crushed here. Good countercharge with the Marauder Horsemen. You know, they're not usually going to be able to beat a Marauder Horseman of Khorne, but in this situation where they've actually got numbers advantage, see them winning pretty decisively, and they've got excellent value. 854 here, 741 on this one. A little bit of a charge there. We've got some Chaos Warriors of Khorne interceding, getting behind them and kind of stopping them up. Chaos Warriors continuing the fight. They're the only thing really holding firm for me. I've got some Fleshhounds coming in. Fleshhound's not bad against Norska now. Really good against Kurgans, but really bad against Skinwolves, unfortunately. It was a bit of a gamble going for the Skinwolves, honestly, or the, sorry, not for the Skinwolves. It was a little bit of a gamble going for the Fleshhounds, but I really didn't think that, Ulrich was going to go for the Skinwolf heavy build. I thought he was going to bring a bunch of Kurgan, great weapons, just the normal experience against Norskin nowadays. But kudos to him for calling me out. It was very well, managed. Fleshhounds diving in, and Fleshhounds over here just crumble out because my opponent used Aspect of the Dread Knight, and everything ripped my poor guys apart. Valky has done really well. She's gotten 2 really good Sloupnirs off. Scrapped down a lot of Skinwolves. She's only got 26 kills, but that's because I've literally just been using her against these things. She's so good at killing Skinwolves. It's honestly pretty incredible. Bloodletters are out on the field. Again, a nice unit, but Forsaken are just better. I should have gone for more of them. If you need anti-infantry against Norska, you should really bring the Hellforged Bellowers, honestly. Tend to be a little bit better, and I don't know why these Norscan Ice Wolves are just not dying. Like, my units are piling into combat, all kinds of weird, and I guess the Skinwolves are here. They're probably taking a majority of the damage, actually. Beasts of Tashanar trying to grab the #1 objective. I'm just trying to scrap back here, but the value is really starting to get away from me. And the Bloodletters are just not performing well. I'm going to drop a beautiful Sword of Khorne here. I saved this up. Just get a fat one right on top of the Brutes of the Hound and the Marauder Berserkers. Brutes of the Hound, though, is spell resistance, so they survive okay. The Marauder Berserkers, though, they got half their HP taken off of them in one fell swoop, which gets me a little bit closer, but I'm pretty desperate for supplies, while Ulrich has a nice little advantage in that respect. Furies come out. I think Furies over the Fleshhounds would have been better. I bring them in a little late, and it's getting into desperation mode for me. Followers the Great Eagle back out on the field. We are ripping apart the Beasts of Tashanar, though, which is nice. The problem is the Marauder Bearmen on the field, as well as the still fairly healthy Berserkers and Brutes of the Hound. They're beat up, sure, but they're hanging in there at the very least, and making it a little bit tough for me. See, I've got a very slight lead, and forgotten about this Blood Beast all the way in the back line. Not that they'd be that useful, but it's always something. And the thing about this matchup also is that Norska generally has cheaper, more available units to bring out. And you can see the Skinwolves have just done amazingly. 1,300, 1,200, this one over here is like 800. All of them performing very admirably. And the Feral Manticore has been a low-key good unit. Always been that way in the right circumstances. Manticores have never been bad. They're just kind of mediocre. Good engagements with Manticores, though, can get you a ton of value if you pick your time and place to charge in. Plus, they are just really cheap terror. And especially with the build that Ulrich went with, having the Doom and Darkness and aspect of the Dread Knight for terror route attempts, has worked out really nicely for him. Fleshhound's cleaning up some hounds on the back point, but it's basically GG for me. I just am not going to be able to get enough onto the field to even save my home point. I played a really close game, but it's just not going to end up being a winning situation. Despite some of the good fights we had, we just got a little bit greedy, and I overextended. That's usually how I lose games, is I get some early picks, and then I get overconfident, and then I just rush in and end up paying the price for it. But, you know, that's on me, and Ulrich played it perfectly for punishing that, so I've got to give it up to him. It was a really fun game regardless. I really thought I had him for a moment there, but again, you know, live and learn. Valkia with great value. She's such a good lord. Always bring her in matchups where you need that little bit of extra support against stuff like Fleshhounds. Or sorry, not Fleshhounds, the Skinwolves. I keep mixing them up, dude. Always bring her when you need stuff against Skinwolves and whatnot, because even though they have better mass than her, she can just sit in there comfortably and poke away at them. Because she's got fire and magic damage, she circumvents not just their Physres, but also punches through their regeneration. So she kills models on them very effectively. Most of her value is from killing Skinwolves and dropping Sleipnir. She killed a few infantry, but it's neither here nor there for the purposes of what we're discussing. The Marauder dual weapons were pretty useless. I think I just swapped them out for probably another Marauder and make these Blood Beasts instead. I think enough Blood Beasts on the field can take on Norska. Just a little sad that I ran into so many Skinwolves, you know. I've been seeing most Norska players, like I said, just bring buttloads of Kurgan Horsemen, and those can be effectively countered by Fleshhounds and Blood Beasts. Maybe on the back end here, get rid of the Fleshhounds and the Blood Beasts and just get 2 Minotaurs and some other stuff. Maybe some, maybe another Fury. And I really love the Blood Shrine. I just, it got a little out of position as all of my units started routing, and there was nothing I could do to save it, so, playing a little closer with my lines, more compacted, and just buffering better with my shields would probably have won me this game, honestly. Because the Norskins couldn't break through my formation early, and Ulrich kind of recognized that, pulled back, and then got me as I overextended. Yeah, good job on beating me, Bird. That was a really great final game. I've got it up here. We're going to get to it eventually. I can kind of talk about it. I definitely fumbled in that one. But again, you made really good counter picks and punished my mistakes really hard. So, huge kudos, man. It's always great to see folks from the new player tournaments going on to win the actual leaderboard qualifying tournaments. You know, that's like the whole goal of me doing the new player tournaments in the first place, is trying to get people to that point. I made finals, Neil. Bird here, Carnifex, is the one who beat me in the finals. Alright, we got another one from the tournament from a few days ago. You see, I'm not really going for anything too meta here. Since I lost to Ulrich, I figured I hadn't played Turtles before, so I was like, you know what, I'll just throw in the Exalted Bloodthirster. I've actually had some success with this guy against the Greenskins, especially. I'm bringing a lot of abilities on him, which arguably isn't a really good idea, but, you know, we're going to try and see what we can do with them. Blood Shrines, pretty strong units now. People are pretty geared up for Skull Taker. He's also on a Blood Shrine, but these things are way cheaper than Skull Taker, and are honestly equally hard to take down in many respects, minus the leadership being a little lower on these guys. But you can see they buff each other up really high, with the Lord nearby, Totem, Flank Secure. Their base leadership of 60 goes up to 77, really, so they're fairly resistant, and they can do good damage to Grom, actually. Because Grom doesn't have very high melee defense. So these guys with their 50 melee attack, as they're just rolling around, bonking everything on the head, can actually get through him pretty good. He does not love that fight. Exalted Bloodthirster hovering. Goblin Wolf Archers just poking away. Really good control on these guys. They're going to get away from my Blood Shrines. I'm going to do a little bit of turn and burn, as I like to call it. Trying to avoid some of that missile play. It's honestly the best way to avoid missile fire with the Blood Shrines, because, you know, units that have missile attacks shoot at a point where the unit is. If you just do some twists and turns like this, you can usually dodge most of the shots incoming to them, but my opponent's doing a pretty good job of actually keeping these things in check right now. Lot of biggins, a lot of Savage Orcs, which I wouldn't really recommend against Khorne typically. They do really well against Marauders, but not so good against Bloodletters and Chaos Warriors. We're going to move up to the point, and we get a really nice charge in with the Blood Shrines over here, hammering these Savage Orcs a little bit, getting that Gore Feast active, getting a little bit of HP back for these guys. And the Exalted Bloodthirster's looking for a spot to dive in here, and he's going to actually go after the Orc Shaman here. Going to be attacking this guy. I don't have Deathbringer, which I normally bring on him. I just opted for some different abilities this time around to see how they worked out. So he misses a couple of extra HP points of damage, really, because he wasn't able to get the extra powerful swings in there. We're going to get a nice pick on the Savage Orcs at the edge of this formation. Nice timing charge with the Exalted Bloodthirster, and the Blood Shrines on top of these Savage Orcs just crushes them, and they're going to be running for the hills now. Swamp Thing's coming out, good unit, and Grom the Punch going to be looking for a side charge here, moving the Chaos Warriors in, Bloodletters holding firm and just waiting for an opportunity to get in there and attack. Ruglud's opening up from afar onto the Chaos Warriors as they lose their Silver Shield in melee combat. Not a bad option or opportunity for some damage. Grom trying to roll through and get smacked by the Bloodthirster. Big damage on Grom there. Gonna be pulling out and up into the air again. And Blood Shrine, unfortunately, you know, not bad to have the Bloodletters here with the Blood Shrines. Got the Swamp Things and the Orc Biggins in that fight there. Really nice, Snotly Pump Wagon charge. The Minotaur's a little out of position right now. Double Pump Wagon on the way in and doing a ton of work against my infantry. You can see a lot of problems from my infantry right now. Pulling back with the Bloodletters, probably a bit of a mistake. You get a really nice engagement on the Flappers with the Minotaurs, though. We're pushing them back for sure. Keeping the Greenskins honest is great, but the problem is I don't have anything to do about these archers right now. And they're starting to get some good value. You can see them poking away from afar, and they're going to start opening up on the Blood Beasts. And my poor Chaos Warriors and Marauders on the other side of the formation here just get completely flattened by the Pump Wagons and Grom. Grom doing some really great damage, and I just haven't answered these Pump Wagons in time. See them getting really heavy-handed in my backfield, running over this routing Marauder unit, which is pretty brutal for me because I really need these guys back in the front line fight. Bloodletters ripping apart some very beat-up Savage Orcs. Marauders getting run over by the Broken Tusk Mob, unfortunately, and I'm going to use the Exalted Bloodthirster to try and save them. Although I really should have used my Bellow of Fury here. I'm not using my abilities very effectively on the Bloodthirster. I'm just not used to helming this thing very often, so losing out on momentum. You can see the value trading is starting to really go against me. The Blood Shrines are struggling a bit because they don't have any infantry support now. And while these things are pretty good against Grom, Grom actually just goes straight for the throat here. And he runs in with all of his infantry underneath him. He's getting damage buffering while the Blood Shrines are just completely out of position right now. He's really chopping through this thing too. He's gotten some great damage. You got the archers poking away at the Blood Shrines as well. Really starting to rack the value up now. 500 and 442, or 422 rather. Great work. Swamp Things we do break with the Minotaurs and the Furies, as well as some Bloodletters underneath. Now, though, a little bit surrounded. Not really a good position to be in, and I just don't have a way to stop the archers. You can see them just sitting back here, having a whale of a time. Really wishing that I had played a little bit better with my Blood Beast positioning. But I just wasn't expecting my flank over here to crumble the way it did. I mean, it just completely fell apart. And then it meant that I was pulled into a really ugly spot up on the other side because all my units were suddenly getting flanked and rear charged, and there really wasn't anything I could do. Bloodletter's struggling. Bloodthirster doing alright, 1300 value, but he's so expensive. Bloodthirsters are, I think he's 28, or maybe even 2900 with all the abilities that I've got on him right now. He gets a good attack in on Grom. He's really hammering Grom here, which is why I brought him in the first place, because Bloodthirsters can snipe most of the casters. He can bully Grom really badly. There's so many good targets for these guys, but the problem is, again, guess what? The archers having a whale of a time back here, really starting to contribute even more heinous value that I'm just not able to survive. Minotaurs on the other side, really beat up, doing good on the value trading for the most part. Furies are diving in, but not really a good spot to be in when your Furies have to desperation dive Broken Tusk Mob and Biggins. Bloodshun's trying to run over the Orc Shaman, but he is on his little piggy here. So he's actually making a pretty good time trying to get away. Get a good swing in there, but two more Boar Boys come in, and now I'm in a really awkward position because I really don't have much here to stop that. Khorne Gores and the Blood Beast moving up, and they're going to be able to get some good counterpunch there, but you can see the Bloodthirster, he's getting really low. Rugloods are still poking away with the bows, and the Savage Orc Arrow Boys also doing good damage. And my throwing axes I brought in, I was trying to shoot the Swamp Things, but they get a little too far forward, and my opponent identifies that opportunity and just lays waste to them with a really solid volley from both of the bowmen. Really hammering those guys. We do break a few of the Boar Boys here. One Savage Orc Boar Boy is going to rout. But the Biggins and the other Savage Orc Boar Boys are doing just fine, and they're getting into a really nice position to be able to fight and scrap me off the middle, where I'm at a bit of a deficit. I just don't have quite as much on the field right now. Supplies are fairly even, but I've also got this poor Horseman that just doesn't really have any targets. That was definitely a mistake on my part to summon them there. The Blood Beasts are getting annihilated by the Savage Orc Biggins here. Huge damage going down on these poor guys. Breath Attack comes in and does a little bit of damage to the Mangler Squigs, of all things. I thought it would do more to the Biggins, but smacks into those instead. We get a nice little Burning Rage there, but the Exalted Bloodthirster's really low, down to 2600 HP. Don't have enough on the field to stop the rampage of the Boar Boys. They're really starting to run rampant, and they're going to be going after the Exalted Bloodthirster now. Swamp Things, I wish I could have chased them off. Could have used a Fury to just hover over them and walk them off the field. Didn't recognize that opportunity as I was playing the game, though, unfortunately. The Khorne Gores, they're just fighting a bunch of goblins and a bunch of other infantry. Not really what Khorne Gores want to do. Khorne Gores really need to fight large targets. It's kind of a waste to use them against infantry under any circumstance, because they just don't trade that well. Trying to rally back. Savage Orc Boar Boys just flattened my poor Bloodletter here. And the throwing axes I have to commit to try and save the Bloodthirster, but he's going to crumble out here. Got 2700 value, which is nice, but misused some of the abilities, and I'm just going to call it there because most of my army is going to run away here. Leadership is just gone. Frenzy is a mess once you lose your lords, so very hard to rely on that. And a few Bloodletters are not flipping this fight. There's too much mobility out for the Greenskins here. GG to Turtle, though. He did a really good job of using his archers to punish me. You know, I left them unaccounted for, and they just ripped me apart. 1400 and 900 here. Snotly Pumpwagon with 1000 value as well. Most of the other units I controlled fairly well. Just the early engagement, I overestimated my unit's punching power in. And the Chaos Warriors just got no value, and the Bloodletters, only one of them value traded decently. One Blood Shrine went down early, the other one was doing great. My Summon's priority was kind of a mess, and this is too many Horsemen. Marauder Horsemen are okay against the Greenskins. Really not something that you should over-rely on like I am here, and there's just too many of them in reserve. You're never going to have an opportunity to bring all 4 Horsemen out of reserve when you've got all these other more expensive units in the back, like Blood Beasts and Minotaurs. If I had maybe brought them in the front side, cut the Blood Shrines, that's 1,900 gold, and cut a couple abilities on the Exalted Bloodthirster. Could have gotten the Blood Beasts in early. Had one War Shrine in reserve, and then some of the Minotaur in first, and then gotten a couple of Horsemen out with some other units to rush for, and I think it would have had a better time. So, that tournament was not going good by this point. Like, I'd won against Pont and then lost 2 in a row, so I was feeling pretty discouraged. Got a matchup against the Vampire Counts, which has been a very back-and-forth matchup. Skull Taker is very strong here, but he can't get run over by dragons, so I decided to do something a little different for this game. Just because I'd been having a not-so-good time, I figured going for something a little bit off-kilter in terms of the big monsters would be interesting. Have a pretty good time. Oh, the one where, yeah, the game where I won was really, really, really close, dude. I'll be showing all the replays off that I've got. I've got all 11 games from the last 2 tournaments.
I see you itching to kill. I will not hold you back. Go! Spill blood!
Yeah, Skull Taker getting everybody all riled up. Skull Taker is the meta choice, by the way, for pretty much every matchup. I don't like bringing him, honestly. I mean, he's really fun, and there's always a time and place for him. But really, I try to just bring him only in the matchups where Khorne desperately needs him. Vampire Count's definitely being one where his buffs are just absolutely necessary to keep your units going. Otherwise, your leadership gets a little hazardous, and then you just run away. With the plus 16 leadership that Skull Taker offers, you basically always have Frenzy active. So you can see Totem is procced, Lord Nearby is procced, so that's plus 8, and then when he's actually in combat, you get Revel in Slaughter, which is another plus 8. Skull Taker is wicked strong, dude. So we're going to try and show off what he can do here. Anyways, Blood Dragon Vampire Lord is a really good choice for counts, really good sniper character, Heart Piercing, Sunders Armor, Charge Bonus, Armor Piercing Weapon Strength, Helmet Discord lowers stats, Sword of Anti-Heroes is another amazing weapon strength buff, 50% for both base and AP. This guy gets over 1k weapon strength when he's got Sword and Heart Piercing procced. Both of those last a long time too, 28 seconds, 40 seconds. Short cooldown on Sword, Heart Piercing a little bit longer, but Helmet Discord and Sword sync up really nicely. I'm going to be using all the buffs together whenever possible. He's also got Breath Attacks. Breath Attacks always really good against Khorne, because stuff like the Slaughter Guard exists. Slaughter Guard very meta against counts as well. Super cool unit also. You just rock these guys in and they just destroy everything. Gotta be careful of Breath Attacks, though, but fortunately, my opponent whiffs this one just a little bit. He's at a little bit too much of an off angle. I bring my throwing axes over, and they get a little bit of damage on the Blood Dragon Lord. You can see that the throwing axes have taken a bit of damage. Might wonder where that came from. Well, you got the ever-present Scab Scraith here. That's what was used on my guys. Luckily, though, they've got extra armor and the spell resistance, so Scab Scraith is not really effective against them. In the same way that it normally is against most skirmish cav. Double Scab Scraith can just ruin stuff like Skeleton Horse Archers for the Tomb Kings or Illyrian Reaver Archers and whatnot. You know, just having that extra little bit of defense on these guys is amazing. It's really nice. I'm pulling back from the number 3 objective because tons of bodies here, right? I mean, I don't really want to take the heat there with a bunch of marauders. They're just not going to win this grind. I mean, it's skeletons and zombies, but the White Kings are here. The Blood Dragon Lord is here. He's just terrorizing me. Unholy Lodestone and some Crypt Ghouls there for some punching power, and then also sustain. Actually doing a bunch of friendly fire damage with my damn throwing axes. That happens sometimes. You gotta be careful with your positioning on them. We are killing the hell out of this corpse cart over here. Skull Taker's having a good old time beating up on it, and the Slaughter Brute has actually been clearing some infantry. Actually ran over these Crypt Ghouls over there, did some good work. Blood Dragon Vampire Lord should come and save this Unholy Lodestone, and that is in fact what he's going to be going for. And he actually is going to go for the Curse of Years here. Going to silence, lower speed, and lower melee attack on Skull Taker. I do kill the Corpse Cart, though. That is shockingly important in this matchup. Really don't want to leave Corpse Carts alive. Not because of the healing so much. The healing and the leadership is nice for the undead. Really, it's the Vigor Mortis that you're trying to get rid of. The perfect Vigor and the melee defense and melee attack buffs are so strong for the vampire counts. It does so much work for you. Or for them. You just can't let them have their infantry fighting at max efficiency all game. Minotaurs brutalize a direwolf over here. If it's the dire pack, you don't want to charge with the Minotaurs, but Minotaurs actually really like killing cheap chaff on the flanks because they get Blood Greed activated. And they didn't really take that much damage, all things considered, for what they got involved with there. Back here, a bit of an emergency. I wasn't expecting a Terrorgeist as well as a Blood Dragon Lord. I use a few swift moves to maneuver Skull Taker away from the heart of this, and the Slaughter Brute, with his big body, actually comes in and just smacks the Terrorgeist off of the back of Skull Taker here, which is awesome. But now I gotta get the Slaughter Brute out of here, right? Like, it did a good job of keeping Skull Taker alive, but gotta find a way to extricate this thing. It's just beating up on the Terrorgeist a little bit. I'm gonna try and turn it around. It's a bit of a ponderous monster, unfortunately. Having a little bit of a hard time getting away. Runes of Binding, though, give it Unbreakable, so it's really not that big of a deal that it takes this damage. It's going to be sitting in there, and it's still got 6,000 HP, which is nice. Minotaur is going to get off of the Skeleton Spears, who are pretty beat up. They got a little bit of free damage on them just charging through those guys as they were unbraced. And now I've got Skull Taker and the Slaughter Brute on top of the Slaughter Guard. Somewhere that the Blood Dragon Lord and the Terrorgeist simply can't land. It's just never going to work out. We do end up losing this fight out on the flank, but we're losing it on our side of the field, and it's a lot of bodies over here. And we do have a nice Sword of Khorne to drop. I have been farming that. So let me just explain why I'm doing this. You might think this is a massive waste of time. It's honestly not. And here's why. So Sword of Khorne can self-charge. You drop Sword of Khorne, and you can kill models with Sword of Khorne, and then charge up your other army abilities off of that. Against greenskins and vampire counts, it's actually not a bad idea to try and get your Sword of Khorne up first, so then you can cycle all of your army abilities. Because you get Sword of Khorne up, you drop it on a bunch of cheap chaff, and get a bunch of model kills. That gives you, like, your tier 2 and 1 army abilities immediately, plus whatever bodies you're already killing can help you charge it up, and then you can just throw out army abilities for the rest of the game. So that's really been my plan. I've just been playing a very slow, patient game. You know, my opponent capped the outside objectives, but I'm just going to maneuver over to the very uncontested number 2 now and start grabbing that. And we won pretty decisively on the number 1 objective. We killed the Corpse Cart here. Got that out of the way early. We've killed the Crypt Ghouls, killed all the zombies, killed all of the spearmen as well. See the Slaughter Guard? Patented undead gameplay right here. 228 kills and 200 value. Amazing stuff. Very good job, guys. We love to see it. Anyways, we're going to be maneuvering around. We've got the horsemen, all 4 of them on the field. A lot of ammo used on these guys. Not a tremendous amount of value up to this point. They've just been helping in this middle fight, but we're going to find something for them to do here in the later stages. And a little antsy with Skulltaker again, overestimating his mobility a bit, because I haven't been playing with him a lot. We get the Curse of Years thrown down on us, so we are silenced, and that is affecting the Slaughter Brute. We're actually baiting our opponent forward, though. So I'm actually running to the trees because, yeah, we're going to get debuffs on the Slaughter Brute and Skulltaker. And that's a little bit rough, but Terrorgeist and the Blood Dragon Lord are going to get debuffed. And guess what doesn't get debuffed in forests? Minotaurs. Minotaurs love fighting in trees with the new Woodsman trait they have. The Khorne Tours used to not have this, and the regular Beastmen Minotaurs did. Now that the Khorne Tours have this, they love actually baiting people into trees, because they just rip them to bits, man. Oh, it's so nice to have a large unit that can fight in tree lines now. You see my opponent's big monsters actually getting a little overextended, and my Bloodletter's doing a pretty good job of actually stopping the White Kings and the Corpse Cart and the Skeleton Spears from getting in here. Brutes of the Hound coming up now. Slaughter Guard gonna hold the edge of the point here. You can see I'm using them just off the objective to stop any cap attempts. I'm gonna use some of my horsemen here to throw at the Terrorgeist, and the other two are gonna go forward to try and deal with the Crypt Horrors. Crypt Horror is very weak to the throwing axes. Khorne throwing axes, just aces in this matchup. They dominate this matchup, in fact. Because Vampire Counts have a hard time shutting them down. You can kill Direwolves and Fellbats with the good weapon strength and charge bonus on the Horsemen. And then anything else, they just kill at range with the fire damage. It's very, very tough for Counts if the throwing axes are free to do their business. And they've been doing it pretty well so far. I mean, like I said, they haven't gotten tremendous value up to this point, but here's where they're going to get a little bit more. You got the Marauder buffering, taking a majority of the damage here, and you can see the Crypt Horror starting to take quite a bit of work from those fire damage axes as they're tossing them in there. Blood Dragon Lord actually routes, or tries to pull back, rather. He doesn't really run away, right? So he's trying to retreat, but the Minotaurs are in contact with him and actually staying close enough that he can't get off the ground. And I bring a Fury in to try and stop him from getting up, and just barely manage to make contact with him as he's about to launch into the air. And now the Fury is just right on him, and you can see my opponent's micro lapses for a moment. Now he's just completely trapped. He's in a very bad spot. And Slaughter Brute over here pummeling the poor Terrorgeist, who's just completely caught out. Khorne's underneath this thing as well, doing amazing work in that Slaughter Brute, just annihilating my opponent's SEs right now. Minotaur is also doing good. I mean, don't get me wrong, 2100 on this Minotaur. The other one over here was 1700. Doing a little bit of custodial work as I make sure to surround the Blood Dragon Lord, so my opponent, if he does get back to here and tries to pull him out, he now can't, since he's completely surrounded. You can see he actually does turn him around, trying to escape, and that Minotaur able to keep him locked down for just that extra second. The Furies continuing their chase. My opponent just can't get him free, and now we've got all the time in the world. Slaughter Guard with 400 kills. They butchered those zombies, obviously. Down to 47 models. Very beat up here, but they still got good cap weight since they're an elite. They basically have full cap weight here, with all the horsemen on the edge of the point as well. Plus Skulltaker. My opponent just doesn't have it here, even though he's got 2 Crypt Ghouls on the point. So, Slaughter Guard, just going to keep them next to Skulltaker as they continue the grind. They don't lose melee attack because of Unyielding Assault, so it doesn't matter that they're close to exhaustion here. Very tired at this point. They're fighting with 71 melee attack. It doesn't matter what they're fighting at this stage. That's why they're so good. They're honestly a good generalist unit, truthfully, because they just beat everything, and God forbid a large target attack them. If a large target attacks the Slaughter Guard and gets stuck in them, it literally dies in a good, like, 10-15 seconds. So you can see my opponent is just way too deep into my lines now. Slaughter Brute is just pummeling the Corpse Cart. I've got the Minotaurs here. Brutes of the Hound are doing some good damage. Khorne Gores also just piling in. I've just fully got my opponent on the ropes now. Huge value lead. My opponent's Lord goes down back here. Minotaurs and the Furies forming a little a circle around him, offering his spirit up to the Blood God himself. You can see a sword going off in the background, deleting what's left of my opponent's units on the center point. This game went just completely to my game plan. My opponent really took the bait, overextending his slow units off of the point and out into the open field, where I was able to get a decisive engagement in the trees where my units had the slightest edge. I was able to just grind down both the Terrorgeist and the Blood Dragon Lord. And then the White Kings are just, you know, they're hard to kill, right? But they're not going to win the game by themselves. Not much that they can do here. We've got the Direwolves intercepted. Sword of Khorne just deleting everything and charging itself back up. You know, 2 minutes from now I'd be dropping another one on whatever my opponent has. And I already had the double cap and was getting an objective lead. I can just freely grab this other one now with the Khorne Gore that I have going up over there. Plus rallying Minotaurs and Furies. So that one felt really good after the last two games where it was a little frustrating, and it was cool seeing the Slaughter Brute do so good. I did not think it was going to get anywhere close to 1900 value, but it was indispensable, honestly. It saved Skulltaker's ass in that game, pushing both the big SEs off of Skulltaker as he was getting chased was massive, plus it just totally dominated the Terrorgeist in the forest fight. Slaughter card with 472 kills and 600 value. Hilarious. The throwing axes actually didn't dominate this game like they normally do, but they got okay value regardless, you know. Sitting around like 500. Just cleaning up like Direwolves and whatever else was coming out. My opponent had Blood Knights in the back pocket. I don't really know if they would have been a better choice. It's really hard to say. This is a really tough matchup for the counts. It's evened up a little bit as there's been tech against Skulltaker, but I still think it's Khorne favored because you can just bring so many good effective units against the undead. You can grind so well with stuff like Brutes of the Hound and Slaughter Guard, and Bloodbake Berserker's still really strong in this matchup, and I think the Slaughter Brute may have real play here, because it does have a ton of HP and Unbreakable, so it can fight to the end. Minotaurs is always good. 24 and 3100. Crazy performance from them this game. You don't see that every time, but that does happen often enough. That's why they're such an indispensable part of Khornate armies. Why I recommend having at least one of them in most of your builds. Very rare that you don't want at least one of these guys out. So, with a 2-2 evening in that tournament, we're just playing for respect here, basically, against Tom. Tom is a really good player. He usually plays Wood Elves. Playing Greenskins this time, though. He's got Grom here. He's got a Orc Shaman, assuredly with the buff spells. Basically, just run around with Fist of Gork, and here we go, and you just buff all your units up to try and scrap down the much more expensive Khornate infantry, typically. We're running something a little different here. I actually played this a lot in the other tournament that we're going to be getting to after this game. Hell yeah. Scarbrand is a bit of a gamble character. You're really counting on your opponent bringing some expensive units or not enough mass to stop him rampaging around and just beating the crap out of everything. Hellforge Bellers is an amazing unit. It's fallen off a little bit because people figured out a lot of the counters to it, but it's still really strong. I mean, excellent damage output with the missile strength, decent range at 160, really solid in melee combat, actually, with 50 melee attack. Good enough melee defense to survive a dive or two. Good armor, obviously. Doesn't have the fizz res a normal skull cannon does. I don't know if that's honestly a coding error on CA's part. It's hard to tell sometimes, but that does hurt it a little bit. Makes it a little bit more vulnerable to counter skirmish. It's usually pretty easy, though, to keep it alive. It's still got 110 armor. You can still do the Hot Wheels moves that I'll assuredly be showing off here. And it's going to actually do some great damage to the Goblin Wolf Riders. It's always been really good against units like this, especially the Hobgoblins and the Hobgoblin Wolf Riders of Chaos Dwarves and the Goblin Wolf Rider Archers, because their mass doesn't really allow them to escape from the vortex damage that the shots throw down. Beautiful shot into the Savage Orcs. Huge casualties, man. Oh my god. See all those guys getting stuck up in the vortex. We're just going to be rolling around blasting whatever we want here, really, and not too worried about it. Grom is going to get in. Gets a really nice engagement, does a bunch of damage. Orc Boy's going to suffer. I'm actually spreading the damage out, as you can see. I'm not trying to just kill an entire unit with the Hellforge Bellowers, because I actually think that's an inefficient way to utilize its damage. The way I prefer to use it is to just hammer individual units one at a time with just good quality shots. That way everything is as weak as possible when it makes contact with your line. Because Scar Taker is so expensive and the Hellforge Bellowers is also fairly costly, you're going for not the craziest quality in terms of infantry. I've got some Chaos Warrior Halberds in here, or my Rill Ringers, one Chaos Warrior, but a lot of Marauders in the field who are pretty mediocre against Greenskin front lines, because Orc Boys can just beat them with Wa active. So doing what I can to get rid of the worst of the counters against these guys is very important, because Savage Orcs are the much scarier unit versus the Orc Boys, right? Orc Boys don't have Fizz Res. Marauders can actually scrap at them, okay? We're going to use Scarbrain to get in there. Thought about shooting the Orc Boys, but then just decided to hit the Savage Orcs instead. My opponent's going pretty deep, right? He's really getting aggressive here to try and attack me on the number 2 objective. Which isn't a bad idea. He's trying to tie up all my units, and then find a way to shut down the Bellowers by just, like, jumping it with bodies, and keeping it from being able to maneuver around. But I still have plenty of units free as a tactical reserve to get in here. And start occupying ground, and his Wolf Rider Archers just go way too deep into the back line, right? This is such a risky spot to sit. Fleshhound right out of the Vanguard gets on top of the Wolf Riders. Wolf Riders can stay apace of Fleshhounds, but they're going to have a really hard time getting away because they're about the same speed. So they're just going to get run down here, and they've got very bad leadership. So the fear and being attacked in the rear is going to cause them to leadership break here eventually. Oh my god, I forgot about this. Scarbrand gets an amazing rampage on Grom, and he just gets absolutely walloped by Scarbrand here. Oh, he's got 600 value already. The Minotaurs are also doing good damage to Grom. You can see a massive wave of Savage Warboys coming in. Very, very scary units. Pretty strong against Khorne for the most part. They do really good armor-piercing damage. They have great charge bonus as well. But Halberds, man, Halberds, I'm telling you, they get piled in a little bit here. I missed a brace, but the charge is a little limp, actually. And now Scarbrand's going to get in on top of these guys, start wailing away on them. He terror outs the Orc Boys as well. Minotaurs get free of the cluster in the middle. I'm just going to leave my Warriors and my Halberds here to soak up all this pressure. You can see how many units are being occupied by these 2 Chaos Warriors. Halberds fighting a bunch of bodies, same with the Chaos Warriors. The Chaos Warriors are doing a little less well here. Just because they're not nearly as good against the Boar Boys, unfortunately. But even though I've lost the number 2, I'm doing pretty good on the value trade aspect of the game. I've chased off one Goblin Wolf Rider. Fleshhound's going to chase the other one off. Excellent, excellent performance out of these things. I mean, those are 300 gold units apiece, so really I've gotten about 600 value out of the Fleshhound, if you want to count what they've chased off, right? That's not reflected up here either. That's a huge relief on the Hellforge Bellowers as well, because Just a lot of damage that my opponent suddenly doesn't have against this thing, right? And we're just stopping up the pressure here pretty effectively. Gonna turn around and blast the Savage Orcs as they're trying to push past. My opponent a little slow getting the Boar Boys to charge after the Hellforge Bellowers. And we're kind of baiting here. I'm going to pull back with the Fleshhounds and the Bellowers, just trying to keep them ahead of the Boar Boys. And we're working on getting enough supplies. I can't remember if it's Fury or a Khorne Gore that I'm planning on summoning out here. But you can see, just like a couple Fleshhounds are getting trapped here. It's not really that big of a deal. A little bit of damage that they're taking, but mostly holding up the efforts of the Savage Orc Boar Boys and the Broken Tusk Mob as it's trying to get this very expensive artillery piece. Pulling away, trying to stay safe. Minotaurs and Scarbrand up in the middle, and Scarbrand is doing so much damage. Got Marauders hanging firm with the Minotaur support, who have done a really good job of killing the mobility that has held in here up to this point in the game. A Blood Beast in there as well, doing some good damage. We're going to rally back to try and break this Savage Orc real quick to keep the Halberds in the fight so they can provide some infantry buffering here when the time comes. But we get our Rage Embodied back online at the right time. And Grom actually gets rampaged into the Halberds and Scarbrand. Scarbrand's a little occupied being a big old doofus. Doesn't get good damage on Grom initially. But now we're going to turn around. Oh my god, he just hits so freaking hard, dude. His weapon strength is out of this world. He doesn't really even need his buffs oftentimes. And you can see he just crushes Grom in the head-to-head. Massive, massive damage. 1,500 value on Scarbrand already. Halberd's holding firm. 859 value on those guys. Minotaurs and the Blood Beasts go down, with the Marauders also routing. But really not that bad, because now I've actually got some units to be able to rally back up here and run down my opponent. Khorne Gore's coming out. They're going to be a really good tool for the Bellowers to sit on. The reason I bring these Halberds, actually, is so that the Bellowers doesn't just rely solely on Scarbrand for protection. You can actually run the Bellowers back to your Halberds and sit the Bellowers in your Halberds and still fire out fairly effectively. You don't want it behind the Khorne Gores. You want it like... Okay. I'm going to do a little bit of drawing. Bear with me, guys. So Khorne Gores in their little box here, right? You actually want the Bellowers sort of at the front of the Khorne Gore unit. That way you can fire past them and it doesn't have the missiles just actually plow into them from behind. That is a bit of a risk if it's sitting behind your front line. There's a way around that with that positioning I just outlined. It's very effective, and it's very hard to shut down the Bellowers at that point. Basically impossible, honestly. Your opponent ends up just piling units into the Khorne Gores where they can suddenly get good value. Plus, you can send Scarbrand back if it's something like a big, expensive single entity. And you can just win that fight with Scarbrand, just murdering the hell out of everything. Scarbrand not so good against bodies, but really good against single entities. And he's proved it this game. We've got Chaos Warriors holding firm still. They're doing everything they can to keep me in this game. You can see the waves and waves of greenskins are starting to dissipate a little bit. It's not like I have a huge value lead, but it's just enough to get me in a position where I can start to overrun a lot of these more isolated greenskin units now, because they don't have a lot of infantry support left. Most of it is gone, and the remaining stuff is fairly low quality. It's like goblins and some Savage Orcs here are about to get charged by the Fleshhounds. Busy microwing elsewhere, so not super caught up on that micro moment yet. Bellowers is more my focus right now. It's Broken Tusk Mob, Rugloods, Boar Boys, and the Swamp Things are all in here. Get a great terror route on the Goblins, which is massive. Scarbrand getting in here, and he's laying waste to the Swamp Things now. They're fighting back okay, but he's really giving as good as he gets for sure. He's got a ton of HP, he's got Khorne Gore support, and I got a nice sword. Sword is okay against cavalry, actually. Not, like, amazing, but just dropping it here on top of them and the Rugloods to try and lower their HP and make sure that I can win this fight with Scarbrand and the Khorne Gores. You can see a terror route goes down the Broken Tusk Mob, Swamp Things route, Rugloods terror route, everything gone in one fell swoop. And, yeah, those Savage Orcs, once the Fleshhounds actually collapsed on the rear of them, they broke them very quickly, and it's going to be a dub there. This build actually worked better than I thought it would. I was genuinely amazed. Greenskins can be tough for Khorne, actually. But I think the Skarbrand pick might be the missing link, because he dominates Grom. He is a little vulnerable to fermented fungi, but fermented fungi is a 100-meter cast range, and if you can't see your lord at the start, it's a Night Goblin war boss. You just stay away from the front line until you know where he is and just go somewhere else. Even if he does get rampaged, it's not that long of one. You can usually keep him alive. And Skarbrand counters the Colossal Squigs, who are a real menace against Khorne oftentimes, because you just rampage them in, do damage, and then they feral rampage after that. Rage Embodied wears off, and then you just kill them with halberds and Skarbrand and throwing axes or whatever minotaurs you can rally up to fight them. They actually turn into a liability for the Greenskins. And I actually have a replay to show off where you see some Colossal Squig action. We'll see how they do when we get to that one. Bellowers got 215 kills. Not a tremendous amount of value, all things considered, for the fact that it used all its ammo, but not a lot of high-quality units to shoot, really. All fairly inexpensive stuff, and really just the kill total is what I was going for. Just needed to help me break up this big formation, man. So many units deployed. 1,800, like, massively outnumbering me. Equalized really nicely for me. Skarbrand with 2,000 value, great performance from him. Brutalized Grom. Grom only got 14, which is still pretty decent for him, but definitely not enough considering the terror-causing performance of Skarbrand. That's another thing about Skarbrand. Terror-causing monster, really good against low leadership, especially if you kill their lord. And he was getting a lot of really clutch ones in the late game. Minotaurs were nice. I brought a Gorbeast Chariot at the end. I don't really think this thing is all that useful for this matchup. If you're bringing the Bellers, you don't need a Chariot. I'd probably cut this. I'm actually thinking an Exalted Bloodletter would be good. Exalted Bloodletters are actually still really strong. They get overshadowed by Wrathmongers, generally speaking, but I think they've still got some matchups where they can really shine. I think this is one of them, because they do wicked damage. Even a cavalry, as long as they don't get cycle charged to death, they can really grind through bodies, elites, and do surprisingly well against some other theoretically less than optimal targets, we'll say. Halberds were great. They did so much for me, and the buffs just didn't matter from the Orc Shaman. I mean, you just couldn't throw them down quick enough or in high-impact enough situations for it to really get them anything. Rugleds were really the only cost-effective part of my opponent's army. Again, I wasn't able to really poke them early, so they were able to just pour it on. But luckily it wasn't enough to win that game. Excuse me. Especially with the Wolf Rider archers being chased off by the Fleshhounds. There's just a lack of shooting in general for the Greenskins there. Alright, we've gotten through these replays. Let's get rid of them. Had a good time. Now we're getting into the other tournament, and we've got, for our first game, a rematch against Turtles. You know, Turtles beat us that last time we played. Fighting me on Chateau. Chateau's a little hard to use artillery on. Not that I was really even thinking about bringing the Bellowers that last time we played. But yeah, you can see I'm going for a pretty similar build to that last matchup, right? That I beat Tom with. I'm mixing in a couple of horsemen early, just because it's Edge of the Darkwood, so these guys have Vanguard, so you'll see where I'm Vanguarding them. I love doing this. One of my favorite maps to play, by the way. Got this weird fog effect on it now. It's a little weird and ugly since the beta for whatever reason. The fog effects just don't work well when you're zoomed out. It's less egregious when you're up here, but you can see it just doesn't look quite right. It's a little annoying. It's really bad when you're up here. I don't want to play from too low, though, because we're going to miss a whole bunch of stuff going on. Anyways, Edge of the Darkwood with the 2 throwing axes, going right up to the number 3 immediately. I love playing out of this forest to threaten my opponent's back objective. I'm surprised people don't do it on the other side more often. I think it's almost always worth going for something like this if you can. Just so your opponent has to respect you on their home point. It keeps a lot of their forces occupied when they have to keep stuff back there. Chaos Warrior Halberd's actually going to go through the trees and get up into a position to threaten the number 3, because why not? I see that my opponent's entire army is like basically back here, well away from his home point, quote-unquote home point. I wouldn't really even say there's a home point on this map. I think it's big enough to be a split push map for most factions that want to play that style. He's moving Savage Orcs over, Orc Biggins, Orc Boys, Grom is moving over. I'm just using my horsemen to try and, like, you know, bait him over. I'm like, hey, come look at this, bud. It's keeping him occupied, looking elsewhere while the Bellowers moves up. I'm going to be using that to shoot the Wolf Riders and his missiles, because I remembered my lesson from last game. He brought the exact same build, essentially. I really do not want my units getting shot to death. So we're going to be working on that as soon as possible. Using first shot on the Savage Orc Biggins just to break them up a little bit. Very annoying, scary unit with great combat prowess. Don't want to scrap with them, really. Try and avoid it as much as possible. A little bit of poke from the Goblin Wolf Riders coming in. Nothing too serious, though. They don't have AP shots or anything. Morgrim's Mangy Marauders are really the only skirmish cav you really need to worry about with the Bellowers. Doesn't do too good against them because they have AP damage that you can't really nullify since these guys don't have Physres. Holding the number 3 objective here and retreating at the very last moment from the Savage Orcs. Getting a few throwing axes in as we retreat, and the Chaos Warriors still moving up. It's going to be a very slow burn as they get over there, but it's going to be well worth it in the late game. See Bellowers trundling to the edge of the little hill here. It's a really nice shot off on the Savage Orc Biggins, continuing to break this unit down, keep them honest, and we do grab the number 2 point in exchange for my opponent's home objective, so still holding on to that double cap. Marauders going to move up just to buffer with their shields. Don't want to let the Chaos Warriors get poked early. You can see I've got them just towing the edge of the point here. It's like 3 guys sitting on the edge of it. Positioning very important for holding on to points, so get used to positioning your units very sneakily around the edges of it whenever possible. Goblin Wolf Rider Archers coming in real close and just get a fat shot right into their face. You can see that the damage isn't, like, tremendous by any means, but still pretty solid. These guys have low leadership, so you can break them fairly quickly with just a few good, accurate shots from the Bellowers. Which is kind of the game plan. My opponent's Orc Shaman was hanging back for a long time, but comes forward and gets a good gaze of Mork on my Marauders. Actually does a lot of damage to them. It's 24 model kills. I was a little surprised to see that spell, honestly. He was using it the last time we played, but I didn't really even clock it then because it was the less impactful of all the stuff that was going on with his build. This time around, I'm feeling more confident. I got my Minotaurs out early, 2 of them. I got my Halberd here, my Halberd up here in really good position. Gonna get the throwing axes at the edge of the tree line to throw at the Savage Orcs and just pressure there. Shooting the Goblin Wolf Riders as they move over to try and counterfire. And the Savage Orc Arrow Boys and the Rugleds are not shooting enough right now. See, I've got Scarbrand behind the pillar so that the Rugleds can't shoot him. I think my opponent was psyching himself out a little bit instead of shooting at the Marauders. He's trying to save ammo for shooting Scarbrand, which is smart in many respects, but, you know, I mean, you just need to be firing at something quicker. Minotaurs get in range and they immediately open up. So Turtles is paying attention. He's a little stuck right now. He's trying to figure out how to defend his back point. But the Halberds moving up onto this now. He's trying to figure out how to shut down the Bellowers. I've got my infantry kind of playing footsie with them. And you can see Grom gets a little bit of damage on the Bellwars, but I was baiting there big time. I sent it forward because I saw Grom on this side. I didn't see any mass over here, really. So I figured if he sent Grom over to try and punch the Bellwars, he might overextend with them and Skarbrand could get a fight. That's exactly what we get here. Skarbrand is going to start wailing on Grom. Gets one good attack in early, gets another huge one there. Immediately racking up close to 700 value. As you can see, Minotaur's holding firm, and the Halberd's going to be trying to push past onto the Ruglets now, just to shut them down quickly. They got very far forward onto the side of the hill here, just shooting at the Minos, and they just crept right into range, where the little gap here is just enough for the Halberds to creep through, start getting some work done. Good opportunity for damage here as the Savage Orc Airboys and Biggins overlap a little bit. We get a great volley off. The Halberds on this side of the field killed the Savage Orcs already. Now they're fighting some Orc Biggins. It's going to be a very even fight there. The Halberds getting shot at by some Wolf Riders, which is a little rough, but not that big of a deal. Swamp Things moving in. But a Blood Shrine here with some Marauders and the Minotaurs who are getting that extra melee attack. And Skarbrand's going to come over. He's angry, he's pissed off, he's not going to let this stand. He loves beating the Swamp Things up. And he just starts ripping into these guys. His melee attack is more than enough to be killing models outright on them. We got enough bodies and support in here to be able to hold for a decent amount of time. Continuing to poke the ranged tools, and the Halberds over here locking up a lot of the Ruglets, who are getting very, very low. You can see the Swamp Things break in horrific fashion for the Greenskins. Minotaurs wavered for a moment there, but able to lock in and start to hold their ground once more. Gaze of Mork there actually doing some friendly fire damage, not like anything terrible or whatever, but definitely not wanting to see that. And the Orc Shaman, my opponent, leaving him a little bit out of position. This guy is just not in a good spot. You can see the Blood Shrine getting some good work on him, as well as Skarbrand, obviously. Just feasting on the mortal souls of my opponent right now. Minotaurs breaking up some Savage Orcs on the other side of the formation. These Minotaurs routing. Not great value on the Minotaurs, honestly, but the Halberds have held really nicely. Plus, we get a really nice dive out here with the Furies dive bombing the hell out of his Savage Orc Boar Boys. On the other side, Orc Boar Boys over here, able to break one of my horsemen. The other one, doing what it can to throw axes. I was all-inning trying to cap this point. Halberds have fought the Biggins to a standstill, basically, which isn't too bad for me. Really, if we just keep the pressure up with Skarbrand, it's going to be a GG situation. We actually kill Grom. God, you look away from Skarbrand for 1 minute and he kills the enemy lord. He didn't even need the Relentless Rage there. I popped it because Grom started routing, and I just wanted to guarantee the kill. 2,800 on Skarbrand. We break up the Ruglets here. Not that much value on them. Huge leadership problems all of a sudden. Plus, the Shaman has run all the way to the back of the map almost, on my side of the field, having a hard time giving any support to his units. Look at this dude. I mean, multiple Savage Orc Boar Boys running away here, with Fleshhounds doing a pretty good job of supporting the chase. Blood Shrine up in this fight. Blood Shrine pretty good against cavalry also. It's just a good all-round unit, man. Just the buffs from it are so nice. 8 extra leadership to all your units, plus the extra 8 melee attack, makes for a pretty great situation. And yeah, my opponent's going to tap out really early here. I mean, it is just completely in shambles at this point. Like, his whole army is running away at this stage. He just got caught out really badly, and he did not know what to do to defend his back point without overcommitting units here. He had a lot defending against the horsemen and the halberds, and they got pretty good value over here. It just distracted his micro enough to allow me to just get great engagements with Skarbrand, who just dominated this game. I mean, he got 29, almost 3,000 value. Easily paying for himself, and he was super healthy at the end here. To just run around and terror bomb everything that the Greenskins might try and throw out. So, awesome. Great stuff. Probably just a kind of a map diff as well. This is really hard for greenskins. If they're going to just play a traditional line, kind of like what my opponent brought here. Halberds, you can see, got really consistent value. The Hellforge Bellers of 1428 on Scarbrand, obviously. Minos were actually the weakest part of the value trade here, as opposed to some of the other games where I've won. Furies and Fleshhounds are doing good, and we were getting Khorne Gores up, and then I had some dual weapon Marauders in reserve for the late game, just in case I couldn't get the Halberds and the Marauders with shields out after they, you know, got beaten up and pushed off the field. Edge of the Darkwood's so big that sometimes your infantry will never go back into the reinforcement pool if they shatter. Because if they shatter, they have to run all the way off before they go back into the pool, and that can be really rough to wait for. So, a little bit of extra infantry I actually think is a good idea on Darkwood. That's just my 2 bits, though. Other people might argue for something different. Delete them as we go. Oh my god, dude. Here is the game against Bird. Bird and I scrapped 2 different times. We'll get to the other game, but right here is when we played in bracket, and this is an absolute rollicking time, dude. This isn't real. Honestly, I don't usually bring Occultist, and I definitely don't bring Exalted Bloodletters regularly, but I was feeling it, man. You know, after that game against Turtles, I was thinking, you know what? This is the tournament where I'm going to bring a little bit of something different every time. And just rely on the Hellforged Bellowers as my X factor. And see what I can do to win these games. Because I've noticed a tendency for people now to start going back to elite builds against Khorne with elite infantry to try and counter Wrathmongers, and that means the Hellforged Bellowers is good again, right? Like, instead of people going super heavy range to try and counter the Bellowers, now you got a little bit more leeway to actually utilize this thing to punish opponents. So we'll see what we can do there. Valkia is always good against Lizardmen. I think she's better than Skulltaker in this matchup, actually. I think she's period the best lord against lizards, truth be told. She fights the big dinosaurs really well. Even Stegodons. Like, Stegodons actually have a hard time with Valkia. Because she's infantry size, she does suffer their extra damage and extra melee attack from the bonus versus infantry. But she's got Demon Shield. Outside of the charge bonus, these things don't hit her very consistently. And once they get tired, they're even worse at it. And Valkia is just a menace, dude. I love her. She's so fun. Really good damage to the Bellers early, and we just get to tee off on the Star Chamber Guardians here. They have nothing to help them right now. Skirmishers are not going to do it. I don't know about the Umbral Tide right now. I actually miscounted the units. I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Cool, okay. No ranged units, but the Umbral Tide was hovering in the back the whole time. They will reveal themselves shortly, though, so I will be preparing some answers to those guys momentarily. A nice little shot from the Hellforged Bellowers. Misses most of them, but does get one shot into the middle of the Star Chamber Guardians to continue poking these guys down. You can see them peeling out to the outside here to get behind the shot blocker, which is smart. This is why I have a throwing axe, though. Just for situations like this, I'm going to creep it around the side here and get it into a point where it can start getting some damage. You can see the Umbral Tide opening up. Good damage on the Hellforged Bellowers, obviously. Really hammering this thing. I'm going to do a little bit of Tokyo drifting to avoid that. And get one last shot before my infantry get in position. That's super accurate. It's just little, like, indentions in terrain can make the Hellforged Bellowers suddenly a really bad unit. You want it on flat ground, or you want it on the slight elevations themselves. Firing from a slightly elevated position with the Hellforged Bellowers basically guarantees max value out of it. It is disgusting when you can just poke away from an elevated position with it. You can see Valkia just getting shot at by skirmishers who were doing nothing to her. Shielded, 100 armor, I mean, she just doesn't care. And she's an itty-bitty target, dude. I mean, she's really hard to hit for most missile units. Gun units are the real risk, but bow units really cannot do good damage to Valkia, so she's just eating some shots to keep the skirmishers from really doing anything to some of my other more important units. Marauders and Chaos Warriors on the point. Umbral Tide are poking the Chaos Warriors. It's just not like the worst thing for them to do. It's steady, consistent damage. It's really the right play for Bird right now. You know, Horsemen get a good volley off, and then they need to rotate, get away from the Umbral Tide shooting, move around the side, and just get away. Cultist getting charged by the Skink Chief. Can't leave him alone in that fight. He will lose. Obviously, Cultist, good unit. Not so good against a gigantic dinosaur. Valkia, though, is very good against these things. So she's getting a few pokes in there, just dissuading him from continuing the fight. Pop Demon Shield a little early, I would say. Not really where I should have used it. It's not terrible, though. Good shot from the Bellowers onto the flank of Cohort of Sotek, just ruining their HP here early. Minotaur's taking some shots from the Umbral Tide, but we get our Horsemen back around the flank here. I was thinking about using them to dive the Salamanders, but, you know, those damn characters are over here. And I don't really want to mess with them right now, so I'm going to avoid that. Sloughnir on the Star Chamber Guardians, not as much damage as I was hoping for, but the Blood Shrine here is helping a little bit to grind them down. Just going to try and get away from that now. Blood Shrine does not want to be grinding on top of all of that. Really not a great fight for it. The Marauder Horsemen, I saw the Chameleon Stalkers over here. I just sent them into charge just to keep these guys out of any engagements. Threaten the dive. The Umbral Tide spent a bunch of time pulling back. The Skink Skirmishers and the Javelin cohorts doing some good work. But the Bellowers is free on the flank over here to just continue teeing off on these expensive units. And Temple Guard and the cohort of Sotek struggling mightily with these Exalted Bloodletters, who are taking some damage, but definitely doing pretty well for themselves regardless. Another really beautiful shot right into that Unbreakable cohort, just trying to kill them as quickly as possible. They just stick around and are really annoying. And over here you can see the Star Chamber Guardians. You know, it was a decent little chain lightning early, but it ends up rotating into the Star Chamber Guardians, who are also getting dogpiled by Warriors and Furies and Blood Shrines, and just get ground down and are basically done. I mean, they're unbreakable, but they got no HP left, man. Only 400 value on them. Temple Guard over here struggling a bit. And the Hellforge Bellower is just continuing the shooting here. Just piling in on the Skink Skirmishers right now. Doing some great damage. Blood Shrine getting hammered by that dang old Umbral Tide. I don't have a good way in either. There's Spear Riders back here. I'm going to send the Furies just to fly over the top and threaten a dive. We'll see how that goes. Don't want to give the lead away here. I'm going to bury it a little bit. Chaos Warriors fighting the Temple Guard pretty evenly. Riperdactyl's trying to find an engagement, but not doing much of anything right now. And the Bloodletters do occupy the Skink cohort and allow the collapse here from the Minotaurs to get onto the flank and just start ripping these guys up. We do actually collapse the Furies and give them Horn of Khorne. With Horn of Khorne, they're actually strong enough to be able to kill Spear Riders, and they also do huge damage to the Umbral Tide. Really cool harmonic convergence to try and save them. One Fury's going to get out clean, the other one's going to crumble here. You know, not the end of the world. This Fury's gotten some pretty good value, and the other didn't do too terribly either. It got like 400 or 500. Bloodletter Summon crumbles out. Not too much value out of it, but enough that I'm not too horribly discomfited by their performance. Khornegore's pushing past the few Star Chamber Guardians. Always push past units that are that beat up. Do not ever, under any circumstance, waste your time fighting something like this. It's not worth it. They get away from their lord and they lose the Unbreakable. I'm going to break here in a moment. Cohort of Sotek dies to a man. Exalted Bloodletter's running around here. Blood Shrine's gone. But the Exalted Bloodletters with 958 value actually holding really nicely. And they got their Hellblade up. Yeah, Hellblade is active, and they're just dissuading any engagements from the Lizardmen right now. Another good shot from the Hellforge Bellers, getting some damage on those Spear Riders. Fury's continuing to threaten. Sometimes you don't need Furies to get tremendous amounts of value. Using them just to keep your opponent off of points and repositioning their skirmish units is enough. And it forces a harmonic convergence out there. My opponent pops it very early, expecting the commit from the Furies, but denying him there a little bit. And they're starting to run out of ammo. They've lost a decent number of models. They'll be shooting for a good bit longer, but their damage potential is a little bit lower now, so I'm a pretty happy camper, all things considered. Bellowers with 1,500 value up to this point. Lot of skinks. Lot of red-crested skinks. And the cohort of Sotek coming back up. Need something for that, but I want to get another Minotaur out, so they're going to come out onto the field. Running some Chameleon Stalkers off into the Shadow Realm with this Marauder. Really should have unsummoned these guys. I'd love to be able to unsummon this Chaos Warrior, but they're still running. Nothing I can do about that, really. The other Chaos Warrior, it's gotten no value. It's gotten hammered by Chain Lightnings and the Red-Crested Skink Chief, who's gotten 1,600 value up to this point. Real nice performance for him. Valkia's flying around. She's dropped a couple Sloupners, but otherwise has been pretty inactive, playing very passively with her right now. But now going to choose an opportunity to rear charge here, trying to use some Khorne and beat up Minotaurs. Actually, to try and leadership break the Skinks. Not the easiest thing to do. They do have pretty decent leadership, so it's not going too great right now, but we're doing decent damage, and we just wheeled the Hellforge Bellers out of that fight now that it's got some ammo. Just blasts the rear of both these units, and now we get the leadership break with the attacked in the rear and damage by artillery debuff going down on both these guys. It's just enough to win me that fight with the Minotaurs, who are on, like, death's bed, able to collapse and run those guys down. Ripperdactyls back here get countercharged by my Horsemen. Huge win for me. Horsemen do a good job of countering Ripperdactyls with their weapon strength and the charge bonus. So always have like a couple of these guys against the Lizardmen. If not for that, then also throwing their axes against like Skink Chiefs and whatnot. We're ignoring the Skink Chief for the most part. I mean, I don't really want to fight near him. He is pretty hard to kill, actually. He's got Colossal Strike and Warrior's Crest, which is pretty annoying. Throwing axes are coming up just to try and get some shots in on him if need be. They kill a Ripperdactyl model as they're running past, getting a little value that way. Now we're going to rally back with the Khorne and the Exalted Bloodletters here. 1,000 value on the Exalted Bloodletters ain't bad at all, and the Minotaurs and the Khorne annihilating the Cold Spear Riders out here. So what I did here is actually something that you really always should do with Valkia. Against these anti-large cavalry, land Valkia in front of them. She actually stops their charge pretty effectively. And then your Minotaur's countercharge, and then the Khorne support underneath that just gives you a huge edge. I mean, there's nothing that the Lizardmen can do about that. They just get completely rolled there. Minotaurs are going to break over here. Only about 650 value, but the other Minotaur doing a lot better. Still not doing the best job in the world, but occupying a lot of attention. Hellforge Bellers is looking real healthy. It's got 2,000 value. Running over some skinks. I'm trying to get into a position to shoot the Star Chamber Guardians or the cohort of Sotek, who are cleaning up the Bloodletters. The Bloodletters got 1,200 value. Look at the fight they're in. They're literally surrounded by all of these bodies here. Somehow able to hang in until the bitter end just about. 12-21 ain't bad at all. Bloodletters coming up, and Horsemen rallying after their terror rout. I'm going to clean up the Red Crested Skinks and the Skink Javelin cohort on the back objective here. You know, just keeping me from having to deal with that later in the game, and it's rough that I lost the #1 objective. You can see how close the points are, but this is not a bad position to be in. The Hellforge Bellowers is just chasing routing units and regenerating HP and ammunition. My opponent's not in a position to threaten it right now. He's got a Cold Spear Rider over here, but we get a fat shot right up onto the back of the cohort of Sotek and the Star Chamber Guardians. Just bullying those all game. 2,500 on this thing right now. Huge performance out of it, and we're waiting here. You know, Skink Chief is going to charge my Bloodletters. We're going to give them a move order to get back, and we're going to have the Khorne and the Minotaurs running around just trying to occupy some space. We're going to charge with the cohort of Sotek, the Minos, bully them a little bit, and then try and just run away so that we don't fight the Star Chamber Guardians, obviously. See, taking a little bit of unnecessary damage, and the Skink Chief comes over and actually smacks his guys from behind, poisons them with that, the missile strength imbues poison out of that, plus the cohort of Sotek with poison as well. Skink Skirmishers have it. A lot of things lower your speed and weapon strength against the Lizardmen. Huge win out here. Fury just lands right on top of the Spear Riders with Valkia supporting. That's all you need, man. Like, Valkia's chipping like 2 or 3 models off the Spear Riders at a time. And then the Furies contributing their damage is enough to actually get these things low enough. Now Valkia can just sit surrounded by them and finish them off anyways. She really doesn't mind a fight like this. It's going really well for her. Hellforge Bellowers is blasting once again. Star Chamber Guardians in the cohort, real low. Bloodletters, just waiting for an opportunity. Not overcommitting them. I'm actually going to push the number 3 objective back here. I was trying to cap it earlier, but Umbral Tide came out and did some wicked damage to my horsemen. Chameleon Stalkers come up to support over here, but I got a Fury now to keep the Umbral Tide back, and we're just going to dogpile a little bit here against the Chameleon Stalkers, who are a fairly weak unit in melee combat. I mean, they're not terrible. They've got Fizz Res and some missile resistance, decently defensive stats, but they don't love fighting something like a Minotaur, and they're struggling a little bit. I've got a Marauder moving up over here as well. I've got the Umbral Tide so far out of position now. I'm going to rally back, and the Marauders are going to engage the Red-Crested Skinks. And you're going to see how quickly a Fury can fold up a Red-Crested Skink unit from behind. Keep an eye on it over there. Sword of Khorne comes down, really well positioned. Marauders just pinning the Star Chamber Guardians in. And the cohort of Sotek as well. And we just nuke what remains of these units. They're so close to breaking. Hellforge Bellowers is real low, but it's hanging in there. It's got 3,100 value. Valkia takes the fight against the Skink Chief now. Just doing some good damage. Bloodletters grinding down the cohorts. We're trying to grab this point, and yeah, the Furies land on the Skinks and just crush their leadership immediately. Marauders do take a lot of damage, though, so that's not ideal, and the Minotaurs are going down. The Chameleon Stalkers are still holding up my cap progress here, but the Marauders are collapsing in there to try and help win that fight. Where did I pop this buff? Just heard the Horn of Khorne ability pop. Right? Oh, maybe not. I don't know what that was then. Bloodletters hanging out. Star Chamber Guardians holding till the bitter end, but 2 summons on them, and they only have 900 value. Brutal stuff, man. Bellowers hard countered the elite build here. I've got the Furies hovering overhead, and they're just going to drop straight down. They're going to die here, but they'll get some damage on the Umbral Tide at the very least, just to keep them from shooting while I clean up the number 1. You can see I cap this point. Desperately trying to grab the number 3 here. I actually clean up everything except the Skink Chief. Not really a lot I can use to kill this guy. I got the horsemen on the last legs here of their mounts, man. Just desperation diving the Skink Skirmishers here with the Minotaurs going in as well. Just to keep these guys back and allow the Marauders to try and cap that point. Valkia lands on the Skink Skirmishers, and I throw in my Warhounds here to try and break this unit up, because they do have full cap weight. Skink Skirmishers can be a little annoying. I didn't want them to get up on the number 3 here. Cold Spear Riders on the way in. They're going to crush the poor Warhounds. Valkia, though, is going to be okay. She's just hanging in there. My opponent is not quite able to catch enough of the Warhounds, though. Stop them from getting on this point. And them and the Marauders have an opportunity to break the Skink Skirmishers here. And I got a Fury coming in now. They're going to be just rushing in to try and assist wherever they can. Khorne's chasing back the Umbral Tide. Skink Skirmishers are running. Bloodletters are underneath all of this, being annoying. I realized around this time that I didn't need the triple cap. Just barely don't need it, though. I kept committing units over here to keep Bird occupied. Because he's spending so much time trying to cap back here that he doesn't have anything to get these Chaos Warriors and the Marauder off the number 1. Playing the objectives has really kept me in this game because the values are very even right now. And, you know, Lizards can just bring wave after wave of skinks. They make this matchup very close despite it being Khorne favored. Most of the time, if you're beating the Lizardmen, it's really not a dominant victory. It's usually a slow battle of attrition. And I've done a very good job of actually accomplishing that this game. And you see I barely overlap Bird here in points. And it's just too late. He's not quite got the bodies to be able to get up on this point before the game ends. He doesn't have anything on the back point either. That Khorne Gore securing it very firmly. Valkia just hovering in the sky, looking triumphant as ever. Let's go, girl. Just didn't need a massive performance out of her, but what she did do was very solid, right? 1,800, beautiful performance, paid for herself. Salted Bloodletters were great. I really think I might just bring them more into the Lizardmen, honestly. Bellowers just dominated that game. 3,200 value, basically single-handedly. Killed the cohort of Sotek and the Star Chamber Guardians each time they came in. I mean, just completely dominated those poor guys. Cultist was a huge waste of money. Probably not bringing them against Lizards again. Lizards don't bring traditional missile units. It's stuff like Umbral Tide usually, and the Bloodletter Summon not too good against that. Bloodletter Summon is better against like Dowie and Vampire Coast, where the Cultists can also do good damage against the very weak melee infantry there. The SEs of the Lizardmen are a little too good against those poor guys, so I don't know. I think they have a time and place. A couple of times against the Lizards they've done well. Just need to... There's always an influx element to this game, right? Like, you can't just bring the same thing every single time, because there's a counter for just about every situation. Good players are going to find the builds to be able to keep you off balance and never really give you the same thing to look at twice. Great game by Bird. Almost had me there. Really almost got me. Razor close game. What's up, Kintama? How's it going, Azul? Yeah, I'm sorry you couldn't make it too, man. It was a great tournament. I had great games through the whole thing. Pretty much all of them were really close scraps for the most part. We'll get to the one that isn't. The game that I actually ended up losing to an opponent who was playing really well was a big positioning mistake on my part and a brilliant set of counter picks and punishes from my opponent. So, we're rocking in here against Hobo Honkers.
Favors the bloodthirsty. A prize for the one who collects him the most skulls.
Who could have guessed? Valkia again, guys? Really? Against High Elves? You know, she's really solid against High Elves. High Elves can bully Valkia a little bit, but I really don't think she's a bad choice, honestly, into them. She's pretty good against the Fireborn. Even though they have Fire Res, she can still poke them pretty effectively. She does good damage, even against, like, Alistar. You know, he's got flaming resistance and into contact effects, blah, 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 blah. You know, he's really not the safest thing to attack. But Valkia with Demon Shield can still engage him fairly safely. Sea Elemental is really interesting. This thing's really vulnerable to shooting. Khorne doesn't have a lot of shooting, right? You got Marauder Horsemen. That's about it. I brought a bunch of Chaos Knights for this matchup, actually. White Lions are out on the field. We got a bunch of Marauders and Chaos Warriors, and my opponent's going for a brick, man. Just a fat blob of infantry with Oceanids and the Sea Elemental with a Lore Master to drop Earthblood. Really going to be a hard formation to break open, right? Gonna try and intercept this Oceanid with Valkia. She's landing, trying to get some attacks in, but they're a little too quick for her. They actually are outpacing her on the ground. She's got 95 speed in the air, but when she's on the ground, it's close to like 40 foot speed, which is a little low. So I cap the #1 for a moment, and then I just, or I slow the cap for a moment, and then I just pull back. I get the Hellforged Bellowers out immediately, because of course I've got it in reserve. Gotta have something for those elite builds, man. It can get real ugly if you don't have anything, right? Chaos Knights piling in against the Oceanids and the White Lions. Not a great fight for them, so I'm going to try and pull them out. Hobo doing a pretty good job of piling in with the Illyrian Reavers. I got the other Chaos Knight to help, though. Gonna pile in as well, crushing the Illyrian Reavers on the charge. Valkia comes over to keep Alistar away. Over here on the #2, we're just leaving the Marauders and the Chaos Warriors just slowly get ground down by this big blob. I mean, not a lot I can do to stop it, honestly. But I can play the objectives. I sure can do that. So that's what we're going to be focusing on this game. Beautiful shot. Huge damage on the White Lions. Their missile resistance saving them a little bit, but they definitely got pummeled pretty badly there. Chaos Knights taking some damage, but they're not doing too terribly. You can see the Keepers of the Flame rocking out. Another good target with Hellforged Bellowers. These guys do have no fire resistance or anything, so it does leave them a little bit vulnerable to the Hellforged Bellowers in a way that you just don't want to see, because elites just hate getting shot to bits by artillery, right? Chaos Warriors versus the Sea Elemental. Not much of a fight here against this thing. Sea Elemental is just way too hard to kill without magic damage and magic missiles. So, really all I'm doing, as you can see, I'm just positioning around the edge of the objective, just to try and force all of the blob to stay here. The second it moves, I'm going to try and retreat out of here and just get away. And I'm playing the #1 objective again, because there's not nearly as much over here. My Chaos Knights are hammering the Illyrian Reavers down. The White Lions of Trace are not able to hold this cap, and we do grab it. Keepers of the Flame are moving in. I've got some Marauder throwing axes in now. They're going to be able to do some good farming against those guys, and the Bellowers are going to be breaking up the White Lions of Trace here. Sure are an awful lot of them in this blob fight, so blasting the 2 units that are standing toe-to-toe. Definitely the goal here. Definitely a good use of time with the Hellforged Bellower ammo. I'm going to move over now and hit the Keepers of the Flame as best I can. Beautiful breath attack from Alistar, just crushing these poor Chaos Warriors. Excellent, excellent target priority from Alistar. First of 3 out of the way. Really hurting me there. Pretty tremendously. Blood Beasts engage. They're just trying to keep the Chaos Warriors supported. Stiffen the resolve here a little bit, but I'm going to pull these guys out and leave the Warriors to their doom. Really not going to be able to survive. Bellowers again with another shot. Get a rear charge there with the Chaos Knights. Don't break the leadership. I'm just trying to break the leadership of the infantry. I am capping this point now, though. One of the Chaos Warriors is running away. They obviously are not doing very well because they just don't have any way to stop what's here. Which is rough, but you gotta find a way to play around these kinds of builds, right? I mean, engaging it squarely is just gonna lose me this match, so we're doing everything we can to try and play as duplicitously as possible. We're gonna pull back away from the #1. We secure the triple cap, and we're getting more of an objective lead again. Beautiful shot from the Hellforged Bellowers onto the Keepers of the Flame, finally. Fireborn come in. They're really hammering my Chaos Knights, who are just struggling immensely right now. But Blood Beast and the other Chaos Knight are able to get a really nice engagement out here, doing some great damage. That fire resistance really hurting my Chaos Knight damage, but Blood Beasts are doing a little bit better. They're grinding a decent amount here. Plus, I've got the throwing axes supporting. They're getting some good HP damage now. You just have to drag these dudes down by hook and by crook, really. Writhing Mist is kind of cool. 360 block chance is really interesting, honestly. Actually charged with the throwing axes for a moment just to get some extra damage on the charge. I'm going to pull back now. Storm Riders are out here on the edge of the field doing damage to me. Keepers of the Flame are on death's bed. Bellowers just blasted them with the last 2 shots, ruining them right now. Throwing axes surround Alistar so the Bellowers can reposition safely. Struggling a little bit. And the Blood Beasts and the Khorne Gores now, with the Blood Beasts chasing down the Fireborn. My opponent trying to get back to the blob. You can see desperately trying to get this point as well. He is about to get a double cap, but he's way behind on the points now. The Bellowers blasts the Storm Riders and charges them down. It's going to take a lot of damage from these guys because they do have good anti-large bonus. So they get a little bit of poke in here. We're going to try and pull this thing out as soon as possible. I gave it a move order, and then for whatever reason it goes back in, but there's nothing else to punish there at the moment. A lot of routing units, as you can see. Throwing Axe is fairly healthy, though. They're really not doing too bad. Blood Beasts get pulled a little too deep in. I kind of overplayed my hand there. I just desperately wanted to kill all the Fireborn, but we flubbed it a bit and got punished by the Oceanids and the Sea Elemental. So the Blood Beasts, even though they were doing good, are just going to fall apart here now. But very beleaguered blob over there at this stage. And Hellforge Bellower is still alive and kicking and just doing wicked damage. Furies dive the remaining and surviving Storm Riders. They got okay value until, you know, the end arrived, so to speak. Khorne Gores, Oceanids, Furies, and Valkia all fighting here, and Fireborn looking to get into a position to help here, but Oceanids are just going to fall apart against the Furies. Furies love ripping up Oceanids. As long as they have a little infantry support, it's a really nice fight for you as Khorne. Grabbing the number 1 again, just continuing to play the off objectives, and using a few units to just like stop the momentum of whatever my opponent's like trying to throw in to try and support the attempt at stopping my caps over here. Khorne Gore's kind of running off into the distance. I'm just trying to chase the Illyrian Reavers back and give my opponent something to look at in the open field, you know? Like, Khorne Gores are a little hard to dive because you don't want to use your mobility to attack them. So if you can get them in the open field and your opponent runs after them with their elite infantry or whatever, it can kind of be a sneaky little tactic for delaying your opponent's advance. Brutal damage on the Blades of Hoth there. Oh my god, they just lose like a full fifth of their HP there. We do get Alistar laning in, but he gives ammunition to the Bellowers. It actually gives it enough time for the Skull Feast to recharge. It's going to pull back now. We're just going to play footsie with Alistar again. Valkia trying to get away from the Sea Elemental, which is trying to get the Khorne Gores. Don't want the smoke there. That Oceanid being attacked by the Fury actually survived, but Blood Beast here on the field. Khorne Gore is going to run away from the Blades of Hoth. Again, see, I'm pulling... That's the whole point of doing this, is just to pull his unit away from the cap. Like, I'm holding it with barely anything right now. I mean, he's trying to bring the White Lions over now. I've got a position on the number 3 that's fairly secure, a very beat-up Chaos Warrior with a Blood Beast is holding over here now. I'm preparing for the late game. Like, I know my opponent is going to want to go over here, and honestly, I'm actually down. And I would say I'm down by quite a lot, because even though I'm only down by 200 up here, this is deceiving. My opponent has been Earthblood healing all game. He's been hitting a lot with it, too. In all actuality, I'm probably down close to 1,500 value. So this delaying game is really the best that I can rely on right now. I need the Bellowers to continue farming value. Got another good shot on the Blades of Hoth, by the way. Killing, I mean, it's killed 34 models off this unit. And this is an elite unit, so they have the extra cap weight, but now they're basically at the same cap weight as anything else. My opponent brings everything over to the number 1. Sea Elemental, White Lions, Fireborn are like out in the open field, so now I'm going to dive the number 2 objective. And you can see, as I move off the number 3, my opponent brings up the Company of the Calendarian and the Silver Helms. to try and grab that number 3 objective. Well, I'm desperately trying to grab the number 2. Beautiful engagement for my Blood Beast, crushing the remaining Fireborn. Taking a little bit of damage, but really not that bad. I mean, Fireborn are just stupidly expensive, so I get some good value out of there. And finally get a chance to use my second Slavener. I've been holding on to it for ages, man. Just didn't have a good time to drop it. But here, with the Khorne Gores stopping up the 2 White Lions of Trace, I just drop it right down the line on them and kind of lay waste to them. I mean, get about 200 value out of that. Crush the remaining HP on those guys, and then they rout. Oceanids and the Sea Elementals starting to pummel my poor Blood Beast, so we're going to try and escape from this. I'm going to leave some units here. I've got some infantry that can rally over and assist. Khorne Gores are continuing to draw the Blades of Hoeth into the open field and just annoy them to death. And moving over, you know, I got some Oceanids that are very beat up here that I'm going to run down. And I'm just thinking about where I can go, right? Like, I get a Chaos Warrior that's been slow walking for ages now. I mean, I summoned him out of the forest spawn here. As I was moving my infantry and my Blood Beast over to that number 2 objective, I summoned the Chaos Warriors out to replace. Always have a plan for defending your points, guys. Huge moment for me here with defending this point. This is a make or break moment. And this is where Blood Beasts shine, dude. Blood Beasts are just better Rat Ogres, and Rat Ogres wreck heavy cavalry. Look at what they're doing to this Silverhelm. The Silverhelm has naval discipline as well, so it's got extra melee defense. The Blood Beast just completely annihilated on the charge. And an Illyrian Reaver comes in to try and help, but I pop a Relentless Rage at the perfect moment. Keep these guys in the fight. No leadership break here. The other Blood Beast barely managed to escape from this middle point with the ocean, or the Sea Elemental. And we're able to just crush the Silverhelms and the Illyrian Reavers. Valkia assisting, 1200 value on her, playing very sparingly with her as much as possible. Hellforged Bellowers just diving into combat temporarily to get a little bit of ammo. Khorne Gores and the Chaos Knights actually able to grab this point away from the Blades of Hoeth and the Illyrian Reavers. Huge moment for me. Resecuring that double cap. I mean, I got a firm lead on the objectives, but hey, I mean, any little bit helps. And you know, the problem with this build for Hobo is that it's just too big of a map. There's too many angles to split push on. So the Sea Elemental has been great. I mean, it has dominated this game. It's got 1700 value and it's full health. It's only, what, 61 HP off of its max, so it's not been beautiful for me by any means, but I've nullified the biggest advantage of his build, which is sustainability, by just playing the off angles this entire match. He just cannot find a way to effectively break my entire army. And I just keep reconstituting enough forces to push the points. I mean, he's got the Sea Elemental a little out of position now. I think he's panicking a little bit. He's, like, unsummoning stuff over here. He just lost so much out on the number 3 objective because, again, I game planned for this exact scenario and was able to properly punish this overextend. Or my opponent just sees, like, a Chaos Warrior over there all by its lonesome against you know, two shock cavalry units and a good AP infantry foe to kind of grind down the Chaos Warriors. The Blood Beasts come over with enough speed and are able to just proper punish him. And this is where I'm, you know, staying in this game. Just keeping enough of a force on the field to deny caps now. You see, my opponent is just so gassed. He's got these big SEs that don't have a way to hold the objectives against my units now. And he's going to tap out here. Really well played, though. I mean, I usually am able to pull people's builds apart enough to be able to isolate these big monsters, but Hobo never gave me that chance, so I had to play the cap game so aggressively here. Valkia was fine. The Blood Beast did really decently. The Bellowers, again, with 3,300 value. This thing has been so good this tournament. I mean, I brought it pretty much every game, actually. I've just been loving what it's been doing. It has feasted for me multiple games now. Wouldn't you believe it? We're going to see it again. And I got Scarbrand against Nurgle. He's always pretty strong against them. Rampage, could have brought Wrathful Reaper. Probably should have brought it in hindsight. But we'll get into this game. You can see my opponent went for the hero build with Chosen of Nurgle. I was pretty much expecting this. Again, this is why I brought the Hellforged Bellowers. I can use throwing axes against this Chosen, but Festus has the healing elixirs, obviously. Fleshy Abundance and whatnot. The Bellowers actually kills models more effectively. So that's really what I'm trying to rely on here to finish these guys off. But it's a little bit of an awkward map. This map has a lot of broken terrain. I thought I could find a way to get into a position where I could nullify the terrain disadvantage for the Bellowers. But you'll kind of see what plays out here. It's a really good game, though. So we'll just keep an eye on what ends up developing here. Kha'Zix and the Exalted Hero chasing back the Horseman for a minute. Scarbrand getting in position. I'm just thinking about what I can do with them here. Not really a whole lot I can get done. Really nice dodge from Kha'Zix and the Hero. Throwing axe is not quite able to get him. Yeah, you can see those shots immediately starting to just pile into nothing. A little bit of decent damage on that Chosen of Nurgle, though, with just the one missile that managed to creep past. Should have gotten up on this hill more aggressively before I shot so I get a better angle of fire. And now I'm on the low ground here. You can see that it's like a little bit sheltered up on the top of this #1 objective, so not really finding any kind of angle of fire for the Bellowers, and I plow another round right into the ground. Just uncorking into absolutely nothing. I'm going to delay the cap here as long as possible, of course. Playing an objective game against Nurgle when they brought a grind build is always a good idea. Another shot, this one making good contact. Finally getting what I was looking for onto the Chosen. Really ruining their HP here. Festus, though, with those healing elixirs, is going to be healing them up, and they only lost one model, so they're loving life for the most part right now. Just going to sit here and grind it out. Probably need to just wait for Nurgle to move off the high ground here before I do anything. He's got another spawn coming up. I do really like spawn of Nurgle against Khorne. It's a really cool pick. I mean, they've got good mass, and they do pretty good damage. Decent holding power, obviously, is an unbreakable unit. And Cloud of Flies. I'm going to try and maneuver around the flank here to try and push down some of the spawn. Bringing the Bellowers out with Scarbrand to try and shoot up these guys as they're trying to get to the core of the Nurgle build here. They're trying to push in so that they have the extra mass to keep Scarbrand out of the middle of the point. So I can't just dive Festus or isolate Kha'Zix or the Exalted Hero right now. So Fleshhound's holding on the Vanguard spawn for my opponent a little bit. Not really the best idea, so I'm going to pull back and try and use my my throwing axes to hammer my opponent a little bit. Good shot from the Bellowers as it plows into the Chosen here. Keeping them occupied. I mean, they're taking a lot of HP damage, but again, the model kills are not really coming in because I still don't have good angles of fire. I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to attack all of this because I really don't have quite the build I need for handling it. I need to get picks, basically, and Scarbrand's looking for those at the Rage Embodied, but I haven't really found a good opportunity yet. And I'm getting good damage in with the throwing axes right now, but is it really going to make a difference when so few models have died, right? Finally kill one of the spawn here. Just one model down, though. Getting a few more throwing axes in against the Chosen. We're going to pull away from the Frolickers Bubonic, and we're going to try and cap this top point. You know, my opponent's moved all of the Chosen down to the low ground for the most part. He's pulling one back. The Frolickers, Bubonic, and the Spawn are trying to hold together. Really good call. You can see that the Fleshhounds not really finding a lot of success there. And here we go. We finally have the fight that we're looking for. We've got the Khorne and Skarbrand attacking the Exalted Hero and Kha'Zix. With the Hellforged Bellers trying to hang in here. We get a good Rage-Embodied Exalted Hero completely surrounded by the Khorne. Skarbrand hitting Kha'Zix pretty decently, but he's in the forest, so he loses a lot of stats. Plus Miasma of Pestilence, slowing his roll, and I just can't hit this guy. I mean, he's just avoiding multiple attacks here. I actually have to kind of pull away from here because the Rotting Riders are on the way out now. Beautiful shot from the Chosen. The Khorne is doing what they can to try and kill the Exalted Hero. You can see them doing huge damage to him. Sword of Filth going down on Skarbrand, and the throwing axes are retreating away as best they can from the Rotting Riders. Actually killed a model with the last volley from the throwing axes there. Moving my throwing axes out to the flank and using the Fleshhounds to try and occupy the Rotting Riders while we get a few volleys off on these guys is the goal. You can see a little bit of a cluster here, though. I mispositioned my throwing axes a little bit. So the Rotting Riders get in and actually tear out my one horseman off. Probably should have just wheeled them around and charged. It would have given them some leadership. Khorne needed to move up a little more aggressively as well, I think. I was afraid of the Chosen and the Spawn and the Nurglings, but I really shouldn't have been because the speed on the Khorne is enough to kind of keep the enemy at bay. I'm just missing out on the damage opportunity. Blood Beast getting rolled over here. I mean, they just get crushed by the Chosen and the Spawn here. Hellforged Bellowers firing point blank in the face of the Nurgle Chosen and still not doing enough damage to break them down. You know, you can see how close the value is here, but not really anything decisive coming out of it. Rage Embodied going down. I mean, Kha'Zix and the Exalted Hero are both pretty low, and they're outside of the forest this time. At least I think they are. Now they are, so I'm not losing stats this time. I get a couple good hits in against the Exalted Hero, but again, not able to kill these guys. Chosen and whatnot, holding on this point. We've got the cap right now. Good damage from the flank. Fury engagement up in the sky going decently for me. I had a beautiful Curse of the Leper with the armor and the damage reflection just ruining my poor Fury. Great, great spell cast by Maximilianaire there. Bloodletter and a Khorne occupying a lot of units over here and getting good value, actually. Bloodletter grinding down the Chosen. Frolickers Bubonic not really doing a whole lot, and the Spawn are basically gone now. Needed to find more opportunities like this. I'm playing such a risky game playing around these units on the low ground right now. Still have a slight value lead, but effectively all of his elites are doing just fine. They got a lot of HP, and the Rotting Riders are in a position where there's not a lot to stop them. They get a good charge through the Marauders and get on top of some of my throwing axes, again doing a lot of HP damage to these guys, and really needing a Khorne or something to kind of wrangle them and finish those guys off. Hellforged Bellers is also getting bullied a little bit by the Hero Squad. It's been very effectively handled so far. Exalted Hero here, maybe overextending though. Skarbrand looking for the kill, and he's going to be going for it against this hero. Festus, though, is just continuing to heal. I mean, he has provided a fat amount of healing for all of these Nurgle units. It's been really, really frustrating. You see me using some throwing axes when we get a Rage Embodied onto the Exalted Hero, and the Blood Beasts are going to collapse on him with Skarbrand. We're going to try and finish this guy here, and we are able to get a couple really good shots in against him. Hellforged Bellowers with 1400 value, which is decent, but Rotting Riders pretty uncontested up top here. Even though this fight with the Khorne and the Bloodletters has gone really, really solidly for me, it's not a winning fight. The Chosen are just too strong. They're just able to grind most of my units down. The Frolickers Bubonic are doing a good job of buffering damage for them. So my opponent is going to be able to win that fight out there on the edge. He caps the number 2. He's going to cap the number 1. He's got a bunch of Forsaken in, and the Rotting Riders doing some pretty good damage here, chasing down a lot of my horsemen. A beautiful Curse of the Slug, slowing most of them up. But Scarbrand intercepts. He's doing a decent job of holding them at bay. Another shot plows right into the dirt for the Hellforge Bellowers. We are able to wheel around here and get a little bit of damage on the Rotting Riders. And I bring Khorne out, but Khorne does not have the Brass Collar. Brass Collar's really good against Nurgle at stopping them from being able to use their heals and spells and whatnot. I'm gonna use my Pray the Blood God here on Khorne to stop Kha'Zix in the backfield. I think I popped it a little too early. I'm trying to get Scarbrand over, but he runs into a couple of the Rotting Riders, and they stop him from being able to collapse over here in time. You can see that it wears off, and Maximilianaire, a really good player, is gonna immediately move over as Scarbrand is stuck on a bunch of spawn and start pounding away at this poor guy. He gets a really nice Sword of Filth, which is gonna lower the melee defense and armor of Scarbrand. And that's allowing the Spawn and the Chosen to really poke Big Boy down here. Scarbrand is 1,500 value, but he's struggling a bit, not doing too hot in that fight. Khorne finds a chance to go after Festus, but we've got the Angels of Decay in now. And I don't have anything to stop them, really. I just summoned a Blood Beast out. I got a little bit of supplies here. I'm going to bring a Fury up as best I can to try and answer that. But yeah, Khorne just gets hit by the charge of Kha'Zix here, plus the Rotting Riders. Without the Brass Collar, he's not getting rid of the magic attack, so he's really vulnerable now. That Fizzres is not doing anything for him here. He gets fully surrounded by these units, and he's going to go down really fast, unfortunately. He got okay value with his first Prey of the Blood God, but you gotta get all those uses out and find some opportunities to engage units like Festus if you're going to use Khorne. I should have brought the Brass Collar. Not bringing the Brass Collar and not bringing Khorne out earlier, I think was the big mistake for me here. And the Hellforge Bellowers constantly shooting the ground was the other problem. Kudos for Maximilianaire for knowing the battlefield, doing a really good job of picking the spots to fight over. He just really countered me based on the terrain, and I didn't have the staying power to outgrind him. So, unfortunately, losing this match. But I figured, you know, I mean, hey, first loss of the day. We're going to come back on it, and we're going to be just fine. We'll find some success in the next round, you know. We won't get countered by the terrain in the same way. You can see Rotting Riders 2,600 value, Kha'Zix with 2,600 value. The two heavy lifters, everything else is pretty mediocre. Really was just all about outlasting me, and those elixirs just ruined my day, man. I mean, it was just too much healing to get through with the damage problems I was having with the Bellowers that game. It's alright, Skulltaker. Look, Bellowers is a unit that you don't want it to just be wildly overpowered. I mean, it is a crazy good unit, right? I mean, sometimes you just gotta adjust the build a little bit more than what I was willing to do there. You know, I came into this tournament with the Bellowers in mind to play around as my centerpiece unit, and to just play all of my builds centered around making sure that it could actually effectively grind through the elite infantry my opponents would bring, while protecting it with my characters as best I could. So we just got a couple replays left. We've got this one, a game against Bob, and a rematch against Bird. So as soon as I'm done with that, I'm going to be dipping out. It's not going to be a super long stream today. It's been fairly long already. You know, once we get through it, I'm going to dip out because I got other stuff I got to do today. Morgrove's mangy Marauders out here. Goblin Wolf Riders rolling around. Marauders chilling, and going to move up to the number 1 with Scarbrand. The Bellers is just going to mirror the Morgroves and the Goblin Wolf Riders. And I'm going to be game planning on shooting down the Morgroves with the Bellers, because it does massive damage to these Wolf Rider archers, as we saw earlier. Really don't want this AP Gobbo Wolf Rider unit to just farm value on me, because they can get some really ridiculous value totals against Khorne. Plowing shot right into the heart of these Wolf Riders, and you gotta avoid running into the Vortex with them, because they get stuck in it really badly, and it's just ruinous damage to the Wolf Riders, honestly. See, a little bit of an awkward spot to fire from, but luckily it doesn't hit my Marauders. Just kills one Marauder, and ends up doing some good damage to the Morgrubs. Bloodwake Berserkers getting poked. Really good target for the Wolf Riders on it, obviously. It's really what my opponent just wants to continue poking against. It's going to be kind of hard to close on the Bellers because of its superior range. So, he's doing a pretty good job of playing footsie right now. Acid Burpa and another Colossal Squig here. My opponent brought Xerius and Spirit Leech. So, Purple Sun of Xerius is for killing the infantry, obviously, and Spirit Leech should be used on the Bellers or Scarbrand, because, I mean, like, it's 35% spell resistance, but damage is damage. Khorne doesn't really have a way to heal, per se. Bellers does with Gore Feast, but it's not, like, amazing heals by any means. Just needs to find good engagements with the big single entities. So you got the Bellers rolling around, just continuing to poke down the Morgrubs. They're about to go offline. I mean, they've just gotten hammered this whole game so far. Huge damage from the Vortex as well. And you can see I'm just pulling back every time my opponent's Wolf Riders get in range. I'm twirling and wheeling, dealing as best I can to avoid as much of that HP damage on the Bellers as possible. Going to be rolling around into a position to hit the Black Orcs one more time. Minotaurs coming up. Summoned them from the other side of the field and ran them forward. So make sure my opponent didn't summon anything out over here and try to push this one lone Marauder. Azag is gearing up for a fight, and so are the Colossal Squigs with the support of the Black Orcs and the Orc Boys here. And say I'm just picking on this one Black Orc right now with my Bellers. In the other game, I was spreading the damage out, but Black Orcs are way more resilient, so they need a little bit more attention than normal. You can see the Colossal Squigs run in, and the Acid Burpa gets stuck for just a little too long, and Scarbrand gets a great engagement. Minotaur's collapsing from the other side to get the surround. Bellor's pummeling the other Black Orc as it tries to trundle in to help out. Beautiful Purple Sun of Xerius, by the way. Massive HP damage on the Marauders. Fortunately for me, though, it rotates over the Minotaurs instead of continuing to hit the Halberds. You know, the Minotaurs take a little damage from it, but really not that bad at all. And we just ruin the Acid Burpa immediately. And now the other Colossal Squig compounds on the air, tries to come in to help, but it's a little too late. Now it's going to get Feral Rampage popped. This is what I was talking about way earlier on stream with game planning for exactly this build with the Halberds and Scarbrand to protect the Bellers, because like my opponent just can't do anything with the Colossal Squigs. Really what he should be doing is rotating around. He should be trying to like force me to pay attention to the #1 objective, with his Skirmishers and his Squigs and Azag like harrying this position. I don't really have much over there, obviously. And he can use his like Black Orcs and other units to just kind of like move up here and just get into position to kind of gear up for a potential dive while like pulling as many of my units over as possible, which is which would be tough for me because a lot of it's very inert. You know, it's a lot of Halberds and like 40 speed units at the most. Yeah, Minotaurs are decently fast, but I mean, 56 isn't crazy by any means, right? Good damage from the Fanatics cast, actually. The Loonies dropping it in, doing a little friendly fire, but, you know, breaking up my Marauders and my Halberds here. take the balance of the damage, but double Minotaur is in here, and they're going to bully the Squig Herd and the Orc Boarboy Biggins. I pop a Rampage here just to force the fight, because I know that it's going to value trade out pretty decently for me. Even the Minotaurs can't just outright survive all of this pressure and the bodies that are on top of them. They still will get pretty ruinous damage on most of these units, so we're just hanging in there as best we can. Scarbrand's starting to get poked by the Archer Corps, which has survived for the most part. Morgrubs are the ones that I did the most damage to. Still got 45 models, though, so they have a decent amount of damage that they can contribute. Gonna fire in here, getting some good damage on the other Wolf Riders, and actually breaking the leadership on the Morgrubs as it's as the damage by artillery debuff goes down on them. Acid Burpa one last time tries to engage. He pops the acid burps, but I pushed him away from the halberds with Scarbrand, so able to survive that. Scarbrand with 1900 value has dominated the single entity game. Azag is playing very passively in the sky up here. He's really not doing a whole lot. And a Bloodletter moves out to the number 2 just to attack the Orc Boy, protecting this point. I rotate the other Marauder over to just make sure that the number 3 objective gets held, because I was a little thin on infantry over there. Had some money to threaten this back objective, so I figured why not. I just commit over there. Throw some Bloodletters out of the other summons, and I'm just pushing down on this point with everything I have, because all of my opponent's stuff is over here for the most part. Just got the one unit out here. I'm just going to sit here with the Bloodletter and Cap. He's actually got these guys with their toes on the point, which is keeping me from taking it immediately. So Hamp is making some really smart plays. The problem was the early engagement was just so forbidding. Losing both of the Colossal Squigs in the opening moments of the game was ruinous for him. He is on his back feet so far. He is reeling right now, trying to find a way to rally up and get some damage in against what heavy hitters I've got left on the field. Bloodweight Berserkers have been handled fairly effectively, but again, I mean, Halford's Beller's taken 0 damage because he spent so much time trying to get rid of the Berserkers and Scarbrand. There's only so many dangerous elite threats that you can handle at once. And he's kind of run out of tools to really hammer those. Minotaur's going to run over because there's an Orc Boarboy Biggin looking to, like, get behind. Thought it was going to go to the number 1 objective, but really it's just going to rear charge this Bloodletter, which is fine by me. I mean, they're a sacrificial unit anyways. Because I'm up so much, I just want to force him to micro everywhere on the field as much as possible. Bloodweight Berserkers down to the last few men. Rugleds have done a good job of shooting them down, as well as some cycle charging from the Biggins. Goblin Wolf Riders obviously have been feasting on them pretty well as well. See a lot of value from the Morgrubs. Even though they've been hammered all game, they still have gotten more than their cost back. Wolf Riders being sacked here to try and stop the Minotaurs and Bloodletters from getting on the Rugleds, which is going okay for a moment. Azag just can't land, because he can't land on Minos. They'll kill him real fast, because he's very squishy on the melee defense. He does cause terror. He could try and get rear charges and terror out some of these units, but I'm just so deep in on him now. Last couple Bloodweight Berserkers are just like attacking here and doing whatever damage they can. That Hellraiser ability is kind of cheeky. It does a little bit of damage with the Vortex, as you can see. Actually breaks leadership there. Halford's Bellowers running after the Rugleds, shutting them down. Marauders keeping pace. Another good Purple Sun Azirius. That's really been very impactful, but that's the only way that Azag has been gaining value up until the end of this game, when he starts to actually land in. But it's a little too late for all of that, because, you know, I've still got the Minotaurs here. Scarbrand's been hiding at the back, just avoiding the Rugleds shooting, because I wasn't super shutting them down effectively. Just wanted to keep my boy with his 3,700 HP as healthy as possible. I'm going to bring him back over now. We pop Horn of Khorne. We got some Blood Beasts collapsing onto the rear of the Boarboy Biggins. We got a Blood Shrine in there too. Huge buffs going down on all these units. 59 melee attack on my boys, and they're exhausted, so they're losing 25 from that exhaustion right now. Still ripping everything apart. Colossal Squig is being kept on the outside. Only 900 value that first summon. My opponent just fully pushed back and like tap out here. Not a lot he can do at this stage. I mean, it's rough. When you lose those squigs early and your army is appreciably smaller for how expensive they are, it can be forbidding to get back into the game, especially with the Bellowers just blasting all your skirmishers and your elite infantry. I hear you, Skulltaker, about the janky physics. Some of the stuff is a little janky, but I think the LOS is fine. It makes battlefield positioning important, which I love. I love the fact that you need to be aware of where and when you're taking fights on terrain, because that adds a whole nother dimension to the battles, and I think it's awesome. I get a huge kick out of it. It just can be frustrating when you're like learning things and trying to figure out what you should and shouldn't be doing. I should have known better than to bring the Hellforged Bellowers on that map against Maximilianaire. But I bring it in a couple of different maps and it's doing a lot better here. So, semifinals match here. I did make it in. I got 4 wins and had a ton of op points too. So it's going to be me and Bob scrapping here, and Bob is bringing a very tough build to deal with. He's got Mazda Mundi here, who has Net Apo, Banishment, and Ruination of Cities. Good Blob Punish, as well as Battlefield Control abilities. Greater Arcane Conduit, Sunburst Standard as well, helping out. Shield of the Old Ones, all the support in the world. And 2 Ancient Steganons to bully infantry, and run down the Hellforged Bellowers, because, you know, these things don't have magic damage, but they can still do good damage to this thing, because it doesn't have Phys-Res, right? And it's got a lot of armor, decent melee defense, but on the charge with 70 charge bonus, they will hammer the Bellowers pretty good. Getting a nice shot in early. How many times have we seen this, man? Bellowers just laying waste to skinks right out the gate, man. Love pummeling enemy skirmishers, because those are one of the most annoying things to run into as Khorne. Just don't want to let your opponent's skirmish units get away with murder for the most part. Just hanging out with the Bellowers, not doing anything for the moment, just giving it the 18 seconds before I can fire again and microing elsewhere in the meantime. Pulling it back some so the Stegadons have to stay honest, keeping the Minotaurs nearby, of course. Throwing axes coming in because they're going to be very effective against the Stegadon, and my opponent's skirmishers are already pretty beat up. Usually the throwing axes get hard countered by skink skirmishers. With them being as injured as they are, it's going to be a little bit harder for my opponent to bully me around. Get a nice throwing axe volley on the skink skirmishers and take down a few more models on them, which is great. So Chaos Warriors, Marauders, a little bit of overlapping here. You can see my opponent going for a banishment now, but I do recognize it before it goes off. Chaos Warriors are going to get pummeled a little bit, but most everything else is going to get out, and it's just going to go out into the open field, and the Warriors avoid the worst of the damage anyways. Furies dive and break the skink skirmishers on the other side here, doing some great damage, and they're going to land on the back of the red-crested skinks and just rip these guys apart. Cold-blooded is going down, but it's not enough. Doesn't keep them in the fight. The Shield of the Old Ones ends up being a little bit wasted, so Fury's doing great right now. Value looking pretty solid. Horned Ones on the way in. I was not ready for the Horned Ones, actually. Bob with a really cool unit. Great shock damage, great weapon strength, super high leadership, a shield, and 100 armor. I mean, this is a shock cavalry unit that you can really, you know, tip your hat to, so to speak. Minotaurs countercharge a little bit. We do pick a model or two off of these guys, but you're going to see a beautiful net of Amentot coming down just to get the Minotaurs locked in place, and Razordon Hunting Pack coming up. Trying to get some volleys off in the Minotaurs. Shots are going a little high, though. They're not getting a great line of fire, and I'm going to throw my horsemen in here. So make sure that the follow-up shots are not as effective as my opponent wants them to be. Stegodon's fine the Bellowers. Bellower's a little out of position right now. I'm going to have to use my horsemen to try and buffer damage here. Get a beautiful, beautiful volley with throwing axes, though. 143 damage, or 143 value, I should say, out of these guys. The first throw is awesome. Razordon's being pushed back, throwing horsemen doing pretty well and avoiding a lot of damage here. Bloodletter's piling in, and the horsemen are pulling back just so I can get them safe, because they have taken a bit of damage as they buffered out some of these lizardmen units that I want to avoid. Cohort of Sotek running around in the open field and getting hammered by the Bellowers. Trying to find a good opportunity to keep myself from, you know, getting pulled to my doom by the lizards here. Hellforge's Bellowers is continuing to poke and keep these guys from finding any fights. They've gotten about 300 value. They were beating up on some other units earlier. Chaos Warriors and the Minotaurs are just fighting desperately against the Horned ones out here, who are doing some pretty good shock damage, but taking a lot of HP damage in return. Really not getting the value that they need right now. Razordon's going to get a great volley here against the Bloodletters from behind. Just lining them up and knocking them down, but, oh, actually peeling away. I thought they finished them off. Guess it was the Ancient Stegodons, actually. This battle was getting pretty chaotic at this point. I've got a decent little lead, but nothing too extreme. You can see my Chaos Warriors getting isolated here and really getting bullied, but we do get a nice charge in with the Minotaurs. They're going to go right for the back of the Spear Riders and the Feral Cold ones. Pummeling damage from the Hellforge's Bellower is actually doing good work against the Feral Cold ones. And the Bellowers, with its last shot, is going to try and hit this Skink Cohort Javelin. And Valkia has just been harassing Mazda Mundi all game so far. It's actually getting really good damage on him. He's very vulnerable on that chair. He hates getting hit by that. But my opponent gets a brilliant net, and the Razordon's going to get some really disgusting damage in onto the Hellforge's Bellowers. I run one of my Khorne Gores into the net as well, which is a big mistake. Marauder Horseman getting lit up by the banishments, and it's going to be a little bit of a crumbling problem here for me. Luckily, the Khorne Gore on the other side and the Minotaur here are able to punch these Spear Riders down, and we're keeping them in check. Bloodletter's going to be running forward, and they're going to go right after the Feral Cold ones. Start attacking these guys and trying to secure a way back into this game. I've actually lost the value lead here, which is really ugly. Especially considering my opponent has a Lord that can heal, and he's still got one Ruination of Cities left. Probably a couple of Appos in the back pocket, too. And Valkia is actually in trouble here. She is getting a little bit surrounded right now by the Stegodons. Does not want to get beaten up like this. I'm going to drop my Sleipnir here just to kill these Cohort Javelins. That way my Khorne Gores can just turn around and go right after the Razordons. Keep them from getting any volleys off here, because the other Lizardmen units are, you know, struggling to get geared up. The other Razordon's been pushed back. And well, actually, it's right here, but it's having a little bit of a hard time getting situated. And my throwing axes are handling the Horned ones. Horned one's going to go after the Bellowers. I'm just sacking the Bellowers here to occupy these guys for a moment. You can see I'm pulling the Khorne Gores over, and I'm dropping a Sword of Khorne here. I just want to kill the Horned ones. I really desperately want to get those guys off the field. So I don't even mind wasting the sword there. It's not really where it should be used. Really using it on the red-crested skinks or something would be better. But I've got Furies, Blood Beasts, Khorne Gores, and Bloodletters out here. And they're routing a lot of units for the Lizardmen right now. Doing some really great damage. And the Minotaur's holding like champs with Valkia. Valkia somehow able to just hang in here, man. I mean, 1776 in terms of value right now. Great performance from her. Some Marauder throwing axes finishing up the Feral Cold Ones in the back line. Skink Skirmishers hanging in there and chipping away, but they're going to get run down by the throwing axes, getting a good attack order on them. And these Marauders have just been holding firm all game, doing a really good job of staying in fights, not allowing the Lizardmen to sit comfortably anywhere, and just using the Khorne to, like, rush around and go after the Razordons and Mazdamundi. Razordons are fast at 70 speed, but Khorne really can keep pace with them pretty nicely, when they're not getting poisoned, of course. Now they're getting poisoned, you can see how quickly they're getting outpaced. Razordon's trying to get settled in for some shooting, but Spear Riders overextending in the backline pretty badly. They came in to chase down the Blood Beasts, and they were doing some good damage as the Blood Beasts were retreating, but Bloodletters, Furies, and throwing axes just diving these guys, ripping them up, and a beautiful Sloupnir from Valkia onto the Red-Crested Skinks, doing huge damage to those guys, taking half their HP away. Valkia with 2,200 value. She's fighting to the bitter end over here. Demon Shield keeping her in this fight against the double Stegodon, just able to keep her alive long enough to get the Furies and the throwing axes over here to try and help peel her out of here. A good Ruination of Cities comes in, does a little bit of damage to all these units here. Valkia is down to 1,100 HP, barely hanging on. You got the Bloodletters chilling here, doing damage to the Red-Crested Skinks, whose leadership's starting to waver, and the Blood Beasts doing a good job of hammering in here as well. And we are able to break this position. Cap control firmly in our favor. We've got a cap over here. We've got the middle objective. Opponent recapped the number 1, but I'm going to bring out some Marauders to just start trying to push multiple points. Furies coming over to the number 1 because I see that Razordon hanging out with their flank in the air, not really able to do a whole lot. Throwing axes, intercepting some skink cohorts at the end of their rope here, so just sacking them to try and get some value out of them here. And both Ancient Stegodons firmly on the run now. Good value out of both of them. 2,300 on the one here. 15 on the other. 15's not quite paying for themselves, but still pretty decent. And you see the Blood Beasts continuing to hammer as best they can. Horned ones with some good value. 1,200 out of them, actually. And Bloodletters, good value on these guys right now. Just about paid for themselves. They're running after the Razordons. Razordons just have spent so much time running away. Even though one of them has gotten good value, the other has only gotten 300. Huge waste of funds, unfortunately. But it's not the end of the world for Bob. He's keeping really close. This is a razor's edge game. He breaks the Marauders with the cohort of Sotek, doing good damage to those guys. I did hold this objective for quite a long while, and it's giving me an opportunity to maybe get some movement on the number 1. When do I summon this Marauder out? I could have sworn I sent a Marauder over there. Anyways, Red-Crested Skinks flank in the air. Another instance where Furies gonna make the difference here. They just do so much damage on the charge against these guys. Good melee attack and excellent weapon strength, peeling through them very quickly and using the cavalry to just keep the Skinks off the point until we clean up what remains of this Red-Crested Skink unit. And we're gonna use them to you know, occupy the attention of all these guys here in a moment. Bloodletter is going to move over first, though. Very hard for Skinks to get through Bloodletters. Bloodletters can do a lot of damage to Skinks. They're just such a cost-effective little unit. They've got the wrong attack order right now. The Red-Crested Skink Javelins are trying to run away. I need to get them to attack the Skink cohort with the melee cudgels. I'm going to do that now, and you can see them immediately start to really feast on these guys. But Javelins are going to get some volleys off here in a moment if I'm not careful. So Marauders are kind of going to the outside, currently chasing the Javelins, and then they're going to kind of peel over here, you can see, go right after these guys in a sort of Khorne with beautiful timing. It's going to just delete this these two Skink units. I mean, it one-shots Skinks, and it's ugly, dude. I mean, bye-bye. 160 models down to 8. 400 HP left on those poor little guys. Oh, you hate to see it, man. Skinks running over here. Razordon's barely holding on. Throwing axes, and the Fury's going to be going over to secure the number 1. I guess all the Marauders summoned out were going to the number 2 there. Bloodletters fighting the cohort of Sotek. Nice fight for the cohort, actually. Because they're unbreakable, they scrap pretty effectively against Bloodletters. They can really hold their own and get some good damage in. Furies, I'm planning on rear charging here. You can see decent control out of me is able to actually collapse on the back of these guys and just rip them up nice and quick so that we can try and grab that number 3, because objectives, you know, big question mark right now. I mean, it's real close on those. My opponent has the double cap right now. Really need to get this Razor Dawn off the field. These Furies have been trying all game to kill them. Getting an okay engagement here. Valkia is just too beat up to commit ever again. She's got 2,400 value. Great performance from her. She just needs to hold back here and not die. Or, at the very least, if she does end up going off the field, to actually route off the field so that the leadership penalty is not so severe into the later stages of the game. Double Fury and throwing axes with Horn of Khorne. Just bye-bye Spear Riders, man. This is why you want to get those Swords of Khorne active, to just nuke positions of chaff infantry so you can just charge up all your army abilities and be using those on cooldown, because it's giving me some great engagements against these Cold Wind Riders. Cold Wind Riders are a really tough unit for Khorne a lot of the time, but when you've got multiple Furies and Horsemen able to surround them and drag them down, it's really not that bad at all. And the Marauders are doing a good job of holding. They've really kept the Skinks off the objectives here. And it's really allowed me some huge leeway for the later stage of this game. Throwing axes, getting after Mazda Mundi, starting to really poke them down, and the Furies are going to be very hard to manage now. You can see full breaks on most of the infantry that remains on the field. Feral Cold Winds getting into one of my horsemen, but the horsemen just turn around. I do give them a charge order against these Cold Ones, because charge bonus and the weapon strength's enough to get around the 90 armor of the Cold Ones, because they don't have a ton of HP, and they've got awful melee defense, so the throwing axes actually do have a pretty good matchup against them. Finally get up on this point over here, pushing down the last objective that my opponent has. He's capping the number 1 over there, but he's not having a good time on the number 3. Double Marauder, or one Marauder, one Bloodletter, and one Marauder Horseman. And Marauder Horsemen have been clutch for me this game. It's not the Bellowers this time. It actually ends up being the throwing axes who have feasted for me, hitting the Stegodons, running down a lot of Skinks and Razor Dawns, and just doing whatever they can to keep me ahead in this match, man. Absolutely clutch performance from those throwing axes. And we do end up getting a win here against Bob, who's a really great player. Bob is very, very strong on the Lizards. It's one of his main factions, so you would expect a good scrap out of him. He gave it to me for sure. Last replay here, and I'll be dipping out after that, so hold on to your butts, guys. Finals match incoming between me and Bird. I did beat Bird, if you remember earlier in the stream. I was able to take the game off of him on his Lizardmen, playing as Khorne. I brought a very different build, though, this time than I did last time. Hellforge Bellowers is still in here, but instead of Valkia, I've got Scarbrand. I just wanted to go with a different look than what I had that last game. Because I figured there would be a very different build from Bird here, and he did indeed bring a very different build. A lot more Skinks, no Temple Guard this time, some Javelins, you got the quad, red-crested Skink with Cohort of Sotek, and Cohort of Waddle, Solar Engine, Skink Priest with Curse of Onra here, instead of the Chain Lightning, and Primal Roar, Golden Tributes, Nakai is always a pretty good bet against Khorne. Scarbrand will beat the brakes off of Nakai if I get a clean engage against him, which is no guarantee. It's going to be very difficult for me. See, it's just kind of squaring up across the field here. First shot from the Bellers just kind of plows into the ground. Not very good damage from it. Getting behind the trees to screen the Solar Engine, which I don't want to get shot by. Going to be looking for some angles onto the Skink cohorts here. Bellowers taking a little bit of time to fire off here, but getting a really nice shot in against the cohort. Really, really wrecking those guys right now. Beller's going to pull back. I do have the number 1 and the number 2 objective. See, my opponent's got some forces over here. I've got the double Marauder holding firm on the outside here. This is, if you remember the last time I played on Altar of the Champion, it was against the Vampire Counts. And I went with a very similar strategy, capping... although in that one I was able to cap the number 3 early. This time I wasn't able to. I grabbed the 2 and the 1 early to get the double cap going. Just using the Hellforged Bellers to really punish the Javelins. You can see them piling into that vortex and just ruining their HP there. Brutal damage out the gate from the Bellowers. And really want to keep that up, you know. Don't want to let the Skink Cohort Javelins get very effective volleys off. Trying to keep them under control is definitely part of the game plan here. You can see I don't have much of a value lead right now, but we're working on that. Red-crested Skinks and the Skink Skirmishers are running around on the outside. The Marauders are getting poked a little bit, but I got a Fury coming out. A Minotaur is coming up. And we'll see what I'm able to do here. You know, I got my 2 Chaos Warriors on the number 1 objective. Probably should have these guys a little bit more centered on it. Like 1 here and 1 here. Khorne holding back, trying to stay out of range of the Javelins is definitely the right call. You can see the blood, or the Hellforged Bellowers, trying to get shot at by the Skinks, doing a little bit of twisting and turning, and I'm going to turn around and blast the cohort here, trying to just wreck these guys. I really want to get them offline as soon as possible. The Marauders engage against the cohort of Sotek and the Javelins. A little bit of a bad fight for me. Definitely not what I need to be going for. You can see I actually am keeping the attack order on the wrong target here. I'm a little occupied on the other side of the field where I've got Scarbrand moving over with the double Fury to try and get after the Skink Skirmishers and terror out the Red-Crested Skinks ASAP. Red-Crested Skinks over here fighting against my Chaos Warriors and some Khorne and Minotaurs, doing pretty good damage to those guys. Javelins getting some good shots in with their little pokey sticks, obviously. Get absolutely roasted from the flank by the Hellforged Bellers. Doesn't have tremendous value, to be fair. 740 is really not bad. I really should not be taking this fight in the middle, to be quite honest. I mean, my opponent has like 1,000,000 debuffs. I mean, look at all the debuffs going down on the Minotaurs. They have 0 stats, literally. Zeroed out completely. And the cohort of Waddle have dazed as well, so that's going to be coming into play. Look at that, dude. I mean, that's minus 54 on the melee attack and melee defense. Instead of the Minotaurs, I needed to bring in the throwing axes. Throwing axes did me so well that last game. And I'm sweeping up on the number 3 objective. Really what I need to be doing is withdrawing off the number 1 right now. Cutting my losses here in the middle and preparing for a fight on the number 2. And dragging the Lizardmen deeper into my zones while I use the Marauders to go cap the number 3, which I'm gonna do. And I should have used the Minotaurs in the late game when my opponent's used all of his magic, because he's only got so many curses that he can throw down. This was a very bad mistake on my part, using these Minotaurs early like this. They just get absolutely rolled. I pop Relentless Rage on them to try and keep them in the fight, but they're getting just dominated right now. I mean, they are getting slapped silly. Khorne are going to get in here, and they're doing some good damage to the cohort of Waddle, but there's a lot of Red-Crested Skinks underneath this. I'm going to try and pull the Khorne back, but not going to find a very good spot, and I bring a Blood Shrine in. Another instance where my summon priority is off. Just a really bad call-in right now, considering the battlefield positioning that I have. Khorne going to move over. You can see the Sacred Croxigors want to get after Scarbrand. I'm using Scarbrand to try and bait the engagement here on top of the Khorne so that we can maybe drag down some of these Sacred Croxigors. And I'm a little slow on the pull here. I'm busy diving with Furies, positioning the Marauders out on the side, moving the Blood Shrine forward, and I really missed the best possible opportunity for this fight, because now the Red-Crested Skinks are turning around to get attacks in, and Akai is coming over, and he's going to pop a Primal Roar in a minute here, I'm pretty sure. if he's got it in his back pocket. But regardless, my opponent's just got a little bit more support in here than I have. And the Cohort of Waddle do get the Primal Roar. Same with the Sacred Croxagore here. 83 melee attack is so hard to deal with. I should not be fighting these guys in melee. You can see Bird is starting to outpace me on the value because of that. And the Fury dive back here was able to shut down the Cold Wind Rider, but didn't really finish them efficiently, unfortunately. Which really frustrating me. Ending up being a bit of a problem with Scarbrand. Excuse me, is not doing well against the Sacred Croxagores. It's too much mass for him. He just isn't able to hang in there the way I want him to. And I'm going to have to pull back here. Fighting on this middle point is starting to swing against me pretty decisively. It's really not looking too good. Hellforge Bellowers has gotten good value. I needed to use it more. I needed to be pulling my opponent deeper off the middle point, man. If I just played off this number 2 objective, I think I would have been in a much better spot. But that's, you know, that's the way games go. You get a little over-eager, you get a little bit gassed after playing so many games, and I just really lost focus here, and Bird was locked in. He was all over me here. Salamander Hunting Pack is out now with the protection of the cohorts of Waddle and the other Sacred Croxagore, who are getting great value, getting ground down a little bit now. There's another Minotaur out on the field. Scarbrand's going after the Solar Engine. Kind of a waste of time, honestly. This is another little error on my part. Razordon Hunting Pack coming out, so I can't keep the engagement going here for much longer. And the Blood Shrine getting poked down by the Skink Skirmishers, actually doing good damage to it. And now Nakai moves over, and he's going to thump this thing into oblivion. It's only got about 150 value, which is really, really poor. Poor little thing is getting bullied. Throwing axes coming out, but they're running down Skink Skirmishers, busy with some less than optimal targets. Really, they should have been shooting the Sacred Croxagores this whole game. They should have been out, first summon, behind the line. Hellforge Beller is shooting, pulling back my infantry, forcing my opponent into the open field, or to rotate all the way around the pillar here, which would have been really tough for him, even with his decently speeded Skinks. It would mean that he's thinning himself out here where my skirmishers are. He can then just pile in with all the infantry to retake, and I can just pull back here. I'm going to tap out because I've really not played it well, and Bird is just all over me here. He did so good getting all of my units that I mispositioned. He brought the perfect counter build to what I had. Just a good call out build wise, and then the execution was excellent. He didn't panic with the Hellforge Bellers killing so many of his units. He got in there, used the debuffs effectively. Nakai got some really good Primal Roars out onto my Minotaurs and Scarbrand, and really pushed those guys around, and I'm just gassed at the end of the game here. I mean, I had a chance to keep playing this one out, but I really don't think I would have been able to do it. He's just got too much here, man. I mean, Razordons and the Salamanders are going to kill the Bellowers. My Horsemen are running away over here. They're beat to hell. Marauders are breaking here, so the back objective is completely undefended. I got a Fury and a couple Marauders, and Scarbrand, who's pretty beat up right now. That's just not going to cut it. I don't have anything to get into the cookie jar in his backline anymore. So, just a very unfortunate flub there in the finals. But a very worthy win for Bird. Huge, huge dub, dude. It was very well deserved. You played it so cleanly there at the end. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for this stream, guys. I mean, I just wanted to get all these Khorne replays out into the ether, or out of the ether, out into the lighted day. Yeah, look at those. Look at that Minotaur value. Ew. I needed my throwing axes. I mean, the throwing axes are just such good utility against lizardmen. I mean, they can poke down the Cohort of Waddle, and all of those other units. The Skink Cohort Javelins have to use their ammo on the Khorne Gores, and the Bellowers and whatnot, and it's only until the Razordons and Salamanders come out that throwing axes are under any real threat, so I'm thinking that next time I'm going to just stick to my guns and bring Valkia. She's just so much better than Skarbrand here. I mean, Skarbrand can do some crazy business against Lizardmen, but it's pretty hard, depending on the build, and I mean, I think it's a little too risky. I think Valkia is a little bit more solid as an all-rounder, and Sleipnir can just wreck Skink front lines, so I would be looking for better opportunities there, and the Bellowers can just commit to focusing down the Javelins, while Valkia Sleipnir's like the cohort of Sotek or the Red Cresteds in the front line to break them apart. And then she can fly around and poke Bastillodon, and then just fly away whenever cohort of Waddle or Nakai want to come over. I can use my throwing axes a lot earlier, because I'll have saved so much money. Because it's 950 gold difference between her and Skarbrand, so I can get one immediately into the build. Probably cut one of the Chaos Warriors. Maybe cut both Chaos Warriors, get a throwing axe, and then get a halberd. Like a Chaos Warrior halberd instead. So those just seem so much more solid on average than the Chaos Warriors. It's a lot harder to engage onto the halberds under any circumstances. Plus, the halberds do beat Saurus, while the Chaos Warriors scrap too evenly with them for my liking. I think that would be the adjustment here. And then the Minotaurs for the end of the game. Once all the magic is gone. Because, you know, Curse of Honor here is fairly expensive. You can just, like, bait engagements out of Nakai and Primal Roar and then just kind of run away. Karanak is also an option with his brass collar to just silence Nakai so he never gets to use his abilities, which is pretty good. I've done that before and it's worked really well. Those are some of the things to keep in mind for the future for myself. So I could have cut the Warhound and the Blood Shrine and gotten Karanak in here. And that would have been pretty good reserves, so yeah, that's it, guys. Last little bit there, just talking about some shenanigans, things to keep in mind for the future whenever I am playing the Lizardmen again. And I'm going to leave it off here. Thanks for joining me, guys, and I will catch y'all on the next one. I'll be streaming Saturday, of course. Maybe I'll be streaming tomorrow, Friday. Not 100% sure on that. I'll be playing it by ear. So, till then, take care, folks. Send me that replay against Max. He brought triple chose. That's what he brought against me, Bird. Send me that replay so I can watch it at the very least. Because I know you played him in the semifinals. Alright. Peace out, guys.